Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are back. We are doing a late one today, late start. Although that assumes the existence of a standard start. But maybe also a shorter one, given that it's already late. But yeah, we've got some interesting stories. What is this? Pity the April Fool. Very good. Yes, for the archives purpose. So today is April 2nd. It's April 1st for a lot of our viewers, though, so close enough, I guess. Today is the April 1st stream, so I'm considering it as such. And along those very lines, or perhaps their opposite, we have our main story of the day, which is that Hitler escaped to Argentina and fathered Angela Merkel. And here is the evidence. There it is. There is Hitler's daughters up there at the top. And there is them once they had grown up. You can also see that he fathered Theresa May. Theresa May, Angela Merkel, apparently sisters. Yes, as Ghost says, compelling. It is very compelling. And no less than to simply discuss the matter, we have a man here today who is close to the matter. Welcome, Adolf Hitler, to the stream. Ginger, that's your cue.
This is as great a shock to me as it is to all of you folks.
Didn't you know that you're actually, what would you be, like 110 years old, lived most of your life in Argentina?
Okay, Uzalu.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying here? Okay. I'm about to tell you something about me now that might come as a surprise.
Uh-oh.
My birthday is on the 28th of June. Do you know what is significant about that date?
It's nowhere near Hitler's birthday.
Correct. But it is rather near a particular event that was very important to Hitler. That being, I was born on the anniversary of the day Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, and on the very same day that the Treaty of Versailles was signed, which is largely regarded as one of the major contributing factors towards the rise of Hitler.
So it's your fault. Wow.
Yes,
so I wasn't far off.
I am a harbinger of doom.
I always knew it. Ginger is isekai reincarnation of Franz Ferdinand. Ginger, can you confirm that you are in a new world, even though it's the same world? Can we get a like date? Well, like Franz Ferdinand, Ginger, same birthday. Welcome back, Franz Ferdinand.
There is another reason why I might not be a reincarnation of Franz Ferdinand. Mm-hmm. And that is because I do believe that I am actually a reincarnation of King Henry VIII. For you see, I share his birthday as well, and also a lot of physical characteristics.
I see. Do you share his appetite and his appetite?
Maybe.
How many wives have you cut the head off of, Ginger? Come on, be honest.
Not enough.
Well, you've got time. I'm sure that Henry's last chop was later than he was older than you are now.
Yes. Look, I must admit I do need to make up for lost time.
Yeah, fair enough. Apparently, you're actually Mussolini. Also, Wolf has found a link between Hitler and Ginger, which is that there is no historical evidence that Hitler was ginger. So that's a link. Yeah, apparently, Mussolini died the very day you were born. Welcome back, sir.
My God.
Bugs has had his spirit transferred to Ginger.
Wait, hang on. What was the actual date of Mussolini's death?
Let's have a look. Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, after a series of military misadventures, unpopular even among his fellow fascists, was captured while trying to flee Italy and was executed on this day in 1945. Also the day
1945.
Also the day Saddam Hussein was born in 1937.
Okay. The day that Mussolini was died was not the same day that I was born. I know that a lot of you seem to think that I'm a lot older than what I am, but that's taking it a bit far.
No, it's close enough, Ginger. There you are, see? Thank you, Wolf, for finding this documentary evidence that, in fact, our theory was correct.
Oh, also, incidentally, I also share a birthday with Elon Musk.
Oh, right. They didn't mention that in here for some reason.
So all of the same omens that are surrounding my birthday also apply to him. So well, just let that thought rest on your head for a little while.
So that's not interesting. Apple launched the iTunes Store on your birthday.
No. April 28th isn't my birthday.
Isn't it?
No, June 28th is my birthday.
You retards in chat. You fucking idiots. June 28th, assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Bet you didn't know that one, Ginger.
No, but seriously, look through the events that happened on June 28th. It's like Jesus Christ, June 28th, a lot of bad stuff happened on that day.
The bald eagle was removed from the US list of endangered and threatened species.
See? Terrible things.
Mike Tyson was disqualified for biting his opponent. I mean, that sounds like something you would do.
Nah, no comment.
And there's Ginger again. Let's see what else there is. Gay riots, Treaty of Versailles. Bet you didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
John Dillinger was born, notorious American bank robber. I think I've heard this story, but I can't remember anything about it. The first professional female astronomer in the US died on that day. So basically, when you were born, you put women back in their place.
Not all terrible omens, then, I suppose.
Victoria was crowned Queen of England. It completely reverses any progress you made in getting rid of the astronomer. A woman was involved in a battle. That's apparently newsworthy. Rousseau
Apparently.
Was born. Oh my God, you caused Rousseau? That's terrible. That's the worst thing on here.
I'll be honest, I don't even know who Rousseau is and what he's done / said.
He's a French philosopher, and that's enough, right? But I'll continue.
That is enough.
Whose opinions are generally considered to be roots of the current socialist and sort of progressive movements.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Charles V, who was King of Spain, was elected Holy Roman Emperor, and he abdicated in 1556, so 40 years later. So yeah, Ginger, you, Ginger did Rousseau, Ginger did leftism.
No.
So that proves you are Hitler. And back to the beginning. Yes, Somnus says Rousseau was a massive fag and he created blank slate theory. What's it called? Tabula rasa and civil rights theory. I haven't heard of it worded that way, but yeah, that's the guy.
Delightful.
Yeah.
So he's the one responsible for all of that nonsense.
It was all his fault. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. We learned a lot about Ginger today and things that. Oh yeah, there you go. Elon Musk, born 1971 on that day. Can't believe you did Rousseau. That's disgusting. Anyway, there you go. That was that. and documentary evidence here that Ginger is in fact Hitler. So yeah, what's your statement on these being your daughters?
I can't say I'm proud.
I can't say they're Ginger.
No. Well, maybe Merkel. Maybe Merkel.
Bit. Yeah, okay, so you're claiming Merkel, but not May. I mean, she has grey hair, maybe she used to have ginger hair.
She used to have ginger hair?
I don't know, maybe she did. I mean, she is the daughter of Hitler and you're Ginger, so she must have done.
What the evidence? I must admit the evidence adds up. It's looking pretty conclusive.
Daddy Bill says Merkel is mutt blonde. Mutt blonde. Is that a German name, or are you just saying mutt blonde? And not a good picture of Theresa May, I will say that. Not a great one. I think probably, yeah, fair enough, Bill. I think probably what's happened here is this picture above is Merkel and her two sisters, who happen not to be, or just two other women, who happen not to be the daughters of Hitler. But what am I saying? Of course they are. Opens Twitter. Adolf Hitler fled to Argentina with USA help and fathered Angela Merkel. Closes Twitter. Yeah, it was that kind of day, chat, and not for no reason. It was April 1st after all. And then what was this? CIA just confirmed in declassified Argentina files that Hitler left Germany. I mean, that's actually interesting. This is the kind of thing that might actually be true. It was posted in my time zone on the 31st of March, but it's most likely that wherever they posted from, it wasn't yet. It doesn't say where they're from, but it does say here, former German SS trooper stated to him confidentially that Adolf Hitler is still alive. Hitler not too long ago, friend that he took a picture with Hitler not too long ago, but did not show the photograph. He also stated that Hitler left Colombia for Argentina around January 1955. So these are CIA files, I assume, may be completely fake. Very well might be, but maybe real. But they don't confirm Hitler is alive. They just confirm a claim from a former SS trooper that he is. Most likely this is not part of these new files. This was known before. They're just using this as part of the meme. But when I had to Google Argentina Hitler earlier, that was a fun experience. Let's see what's come up now that it's no longer April Fool's Day everywhere. Apparently, if you search Ginger Hitler, you show up, Ginger. Here's the picture of you that you see on the right.
Hey, I'll have you know that that's actually very close to the image that I use to represent my official Cabal leech server.
Yes, I'm aware of that. And don't worry, chat, he will be summarily banned very soon, but we just need to prove, his parentage first.
Yeah.
So I saw this come up. This is probably fake. I'm going to skip it. But there's this one as well. There's this. So nothing particularly strong going around here, but it'd be very hard to find anything real right now. CIA report of Hitler transported to Argentina June 20th, 1945. He lived out the rest of his life in a community with other German Nazis. So this could be completely false, but does this actually say what it is alleged to say? A very high-ranking German army officer and the other, and even more important, civilian. Well, that's probably, what was it?
There was a great many Fs.
Live chat has not updated for me yet. Oh, there we go. Hitler got you. Yeah, that'll be it. Okay, it looks like Rumble, YouTube, and Twitch are all back to streaming again. Sorry about that, chat. My internet gets cut out for a minute, but we're back now. Yes, Hitler did indeed get me. Yes, I have seen this one before. This is quite funny. Dead stream. Yes, it did briefly die, but we're back now. I don't know why my internet just cut out briefly. That hasn't happened very much on this connection. It's been quite stable. Anyway, yes, I was going to just have a look and see if anything's come up on Google about it. That's 5 days ago. What I need is news from the last 24 hours. If it's on Google, it's not going to tell us the truth, though. So look at those two. Just want to see if there's any truth to this, because if it came up on April Fool's, it's likely not to be true, but worth having a quick look. Do CIA declassified documents prove that Hitler escaped to Argentina? This is from France 24, so we'll decide whether to believe it. announced his government would declassify all documents, etc., etc. Following the announcement, users were sharing the viral claim that Hitler peacefully ended his days in Argentina. We debunk these claims in this edition of Truth or Fake, they say. So, yeah, I think we can. This is a video. So I think we can probably we can rest on the assumption that at least these guys say it isn't true. How about this one? The year of the document dump rolls on. Argentina is declassifying evidence that Hitler survived World War II. This is from Barstool Sports, which is not the name of a publication I'd expect to run this story. Knew there was something I didn't like about that guy. Oh, hated dirty jokes. Nice. Paper hanging. Didn't do the positive thing of blowing his brains out in a year. Okay, there's a video as well. Secret documents from Fox News. I think we're going to have to wait a bit longer to find out what actually happened with this chap. What's he been declassified? Yeah, this is from a few days ago. So yes, we'll give it some more time. I think probably we don't know yet. I will rest on the assumption that we don't know yet. But as far as I understand from people that have followed the hypothesis, it is concerningly plausible. Other Nazis did end up there, and I believe Mengele. The other one, Mengele. Did someone say Mengele was discovered there? Mengele
was found there.
Argentina. That's what someone said yesterday.
Do you have any idea what Mengele did?
He was a rather nasty doctor, wasn't he?
He was. I don't think it would be much of an exaggeration to describe him as the most horrific individual to ever exist.
Medical experiments on prisoners at Auschwitz. Most notorious, Angel of Death. Escaped to South America after the war and evaded justice for his crimes. He died in Brazil in 1979. So yes, there is reason to believe that Nazis did escape there. And if Mengele was able to, it stands to reason it's possible that Hitler was too, but we don't know yet. I suspect that if Millet had access to that kind of information, he would just tell people. It's more likely that he's releasing it as more of a political stunt to demonstrate a sort of openness rather than because there's actually something really big and major in there. Pug, I do know of Mengele, I just don't know the specifics of what he did to his quote-unquote patients. Fucking James. Yeah. Less doctor and more extreme sadist. Yes, I understand, Somnus. I do understand the premise of Mengele, yes. I just don't know many of the specifics. Ah, yes, the Nazi masturbation machines.
One of my... That's about posting one of my proudest moments in Cabal history there.
Yes. If he did not cure them. Doesn't seem like it. And to be on the good side of the Jews. Well, that's the worst thing. After the war, he fled to Argentina. This is on Wikipedia. Assisted by a network of former SS members, he initially lived in and around Buenos Aires, but fled to Paraguay in 1959 and later Brazil in 1960, all while being sought by West Germany, Israel, and Nazi hunters such as Simon Wiesenthal, which we talked about recently, actually, who wanted to bring him to trial. Mengele eluded capture in spite of extradition requests by the West German government and clandestine operations by the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. He drowned in 1979 after suffering a heart attack while swimming off the coast of Bertioga and was buried under the false name of Wolfgang Gerhard. His remains were disinterred and positively identified by forensic examination in 1985. Given that story, I suspect that if Hitler had survived and escaped to Argentina, he too would have been sought. John Wick says Mengele was a classic sadist. Imagine a little kid killing small animals becoming the head of a national science program. Yeah, that's what I figured. You guys, you don't need to introduce me to the basic premise. I get the basic premise. I don't know the specifics of like what exactly his experiments were, but I don't feel I need to, and they're probably very nasty anyway. But yeah, so some actually did flee to South America. So the idea that Hitler did as well is not impossible. But the way that Mengele was pursued and the fact that he didn't last there for very long, certainly nowhere near until now, indicates sufficiently to me that probably Hitler wouldn't have done much better than Mengele did. It's interesting, though, that Mossad pursued him. You would think that it wouldn't just be on the basis of Well, it's right to do so. It sounds like they were pursuing him very hard. Maybe there's something else to that. The question is often asked, why don't they post translations of Hitler's speeches? They do sometimes, I think, but it's not all of them. There is a question to be asked about whether Western governments trust their people to actually see Hitler's speeches, which I can understand to an extent. Ghost says, in the mid-20th century, there were these creatures called Germans. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, thank you. Let's start from the beginning. Hold on, what's a creature? Somnus says, unlike the Japanese, Mengeler's experiments didn't even yield anything useful. Somnus there coming out in favor of Japanese medical sadism. Thank you, Somnus. All right. Let's move on from the Argentina Hitler story. Unless anyone else has anything else on it. He attempted to change eye color by injecting chemicals into the eyes of living subjects. Well, that's fucking lovely. It's lovely.
Yeah, that was one of the more reasonable things that he did.
Well, I'm quite happy not to hear more of it. I probably have in the past heard some of the details, but I don't need to know. All right. Let's go down a few stories quickly, shall we? GOP-led states remove hundreds of thousands from voter rolls, finding non-citizens had registered. As long as they're removing the right ones, this is very good news. Because this was one of the main means for fraud during 2020. Now, it's still GOP-led states. This seems to happen across the entire country, but it's a start. At least it'll make them much harder to re-flip if there was any chance of that at all. 2 Republican-led states have removed hundreds of thousands of registrations from their voter rolls this month, while another identified hundreds of non-citizen voters during their voter list maintenance. Collectively, the GOP-led states of Idaho and Missouri took nearly 300,000 registrations off their voter rolls after finding inactive, ineligible, or deceased voters. In addition to duplicates and voters who moved, Iowa identified nearly 300 non-citizens on the state's voter rolls and referred them to the Iowa Attorney General. Now, it does occasionally happen that states remove people from their voter rolls. And the more responsible ones may do this occasionally, but I think 300,000 is still a lot more than they usually do. And finding this many that needed to be removed is an indictment upon the state, upon the people that hadn't removed it in the first place. But it's perhaps also an indication that Trump is trying to make sure that these people do their job and actually keep these voter rolls clean. So yes, good news. I think this is quite a simple story. I shall move on, but I just wanted to let you know that that is happening. We are likely to see, and I very much hope that we do, many more indications over the next few months that the US government is beginning to do something seriously about election fraud, which is good. Causes, but Oozlu, non-citizen can't vote. This is just a waste of time. Yeah, there'll be people that actually think that way. Next up, Trump administration says man deported to El Salvador in error. Uh-oh. Chat, would you appreciate, would you still be a MAGA Chad if you were just, well, you're coming with us, buddy. Skin was a bit too brown today. Off to El Salvador with you. Courses, oh no, anyway. Well, it's, you may take the perspective of we got plenty, so 1 or 2 errors doesn't matter, but it's not right, is it? And at least they're resolving it, one hopes. So go on, Ginger.
Okay. Allow me to put this into a different perspective. Oh no, a man has been sent to the best country in South America?
Probably to their prisons, though.
I mean, if it's literally in error, I'm pretty sure they've already caught it and he hasn't gone to a prison.
That's probably what's happened. We'll read on, but the nice thing about this is that, remember, chat, anyone who does something complicated is going to make errors. It's not an excuse, but if it's spotted, if you hear about it happening, don't assume that just because you don't hear about it on another occasion, that it hasn't happened. In fact, assume it has, and it's just not been reported. If it's being reported like this, if it's getting out, if they're willing for people to know that this has happened, it's fairly likely that they're trying to do an honest job and that they'll correct this issue. Not for sure, but likely. Let's read on and see what happened, because I hope that they've already resolved this. If they've done this, though, there is a process for resolving it. So probably you'll get very, very minimal errors. Trump's administration erroneously deported a Salvadorian man as part of 3 high-profile deportation flights to El Salvador last month after a judge's ruling prohibited the man's removal to his home country, according to a court filing on Monday. So is it going to turn out that it wasn't even like he was an illegal immigrant, but they blocked it from being allowed for some dumb reason? Let's find out. Lawyers for the man, Kilmer Abrego Garcia. Kill is right there in his name. Come on, guys. Disputed US government allegations that he was a member of the MS-13 gang and demanded his immediate return to the US. The government, however, said it did not have the legal authority to bring him back from El Salvador. That's complicated. I guess it's in Bukele's hands now. Then again, the way Bukele's been doing justice there, very harsh, very swift, very effective. But I bet there have been some false positives. I bet there have been some people swept up who were maybe friends with a gang member, maybe didn't even know they were a gang member. All, people on the periphery. Of course, that's kind of a dick move. Yeah. See, we don't know for sure whether he is or not. He claims he's not. It seems like the court judged that he's not, but we don't know how good the court is. Let's keep reading. On March 15th, Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to rapidly deport alleged members. I'll skip the background because I think we know that already. In Monday's filing, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement official said Abrego Garcia was wrongfully placed on the third flight despite a 2019 judgment granting him protection. That's not great. Through administrative error, Abrego Garcia was removed from the United States to El Salvador. ICE official Robert Cerner said in the court document, this was an oversight and the removal was carried out in good faith based on the existence of a final order of removal and Abrego Garcia's purported membership in MS-13. I wonder if he was like, yeah, he's MS-13, but he's ratted on them, so we are giving him protection. I mean, what else would a protection order? Judgment granting him protection. What else would that mean? It might mean anything, but it could mean that he was a witness. In which case, he's probably not very popular right now. The Trump admin invoked the 18th century law to deport Venezuelans and Salvadorians it alleges are violent gang members as part of its sweeping immigration crackdown, which, as far as we know, is very, very necessary to do this. Representatives for some deportees have denied any gang ties, and U.S. courts have temporarily blocked use of the law while hearing legal challenges. Abrego Garcia's lawyers on March 28th called on the U.S. court in Maryland to order his return to the U.S. and halt U.S. funding, which they call a notorious torture chamber. If there is torture going on there, then the U.S. should no longer deport people to there. We'd have to define torture because boredom is a form of torture, arguably, and that's what prisons do. But hey, if they are torturing people there, then it should be known and the US should stop using it. So I'm open to that. In a court filing on Monday, the Trump admin said the US government did not have the authority to bring him back since he was no longer in US custody. You could make it happen though, guys. You could make it happen. It may be here that that they did this cheekily. The court says no, but we know he's part of MS-13. The court's just using an excuse. So we're going to put him over there and then say we don't have jurisdiction. Underhanded, but maybe they are right. Maybe the court is bent. Maybe the court's trying to protect someone who is MS-13. Maybe he's a murderer or a rapist or something. That's just one possibility. It could be a fuck up, but we haven't actually seen, as far as I know, that many fuck ups from Trump so far, but we've seen a lot of misdirection. Of course, as if that's the case, you can blame the overreaching judges, yeah. Wolf says deporting brown people is always good news. We don't know for sure if he was brown. We don't know for sure. He probably was, but I mean, given his name, yeah, it's very likely, isn't it? We haven't seen him, though. U.S. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said intelligence reports showed Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13 and involved in human trafficking. She provided no further details. Well, she's probably right. I don't know, though, for sure. I mean, it should be determined for certain, but Abrego Garcia's wife and 5-year-old son are U.S. citizens and reside in Maryland, the family's legal complaint said. Abrego Garcia was pulled over by ICE officers while driving on March 12th and handcuffed while his son, who has autism and is unable to communicate verbally, was in the backseat of the car, the complaint said. That's some pretty severe autism. Ginger, do you know if Cass has a Mexican father?
I know Cass's parents, and they are neither one of them are Mexican.
Are you sure they're not in MS-13? Because it sounds like the US isn't sure whether this guy's in MS-13. Pug says, when did he get court protection? I smell a radical judge. Very possibly. Very possibly. I feel like this source, SRN News, I think, is usually pretty lefty. We had an article from them last time. Mentioning the autism thing, they might be building up to saying the court ordered that on the basis that his family are vulnerable, despite being MS-13, he has to be kept behind. The ICE official said the agency was aware of the earlier court order blocking Abrego Garcia's removal. He was not on the March 15 flight's initial manifest, but was assigned to the flight as an alternate, as other people were removed from the flight for various reasons, the official said. So it very much could be that there was just a bureaucratic fuck-up here. But it might also be that they were trying to sneak him out despite a court's undue fuckery to try and protect a serial rapist, gang member, murderer, or whatever else. If he has a family, it's a little bit less likely, but it's still possible. I'm sure plenty of MS-13 have families. Yeah. This article probably won't tell us what actually happened. But shall we actually, I'm curious, is there another source that has better information on this? I'm hoping for a source that's not ridiculously leftist biased. And I know that's ambitious from a Google search, but let's see what I can find. All very leftist so far. God, it's so fucking... it's so fucking one-sided. We are on page 5. What's Fourth News? I haven't heard of that one. I imagine that any news source I would recognize as being unbiased is just not allowed on Google searches. Can I use the source I used to use for everything, the Epoch Times? Just see if we can find it. Go here. We'll do site Epoch Times. See if they talked about it. They do. 9 hours ago. Thanks, Google. That would have been fucking great earlier. Piece of shit. DOJ says administrative error resulted in deportation of gang member. I always like being able to read from Epoch Times. It has generally been my favorite source for news. Let's see what these guys say. They might have more information. There's Anna Paulina Luna. I think she went there recently. I think that's her, right? Oh no, that's Christy Noam. Sorry, I got them confused. Minister of Justice. She visited the detention center there. U.S. government deported an El Salvadorian illegal immigrant to El Salvador despite him having protection against removal, according to your court filings. Kilmer Armando Abrego. Oh, he has another name they didn't mention before. Wow, more information's coming to light, chat. Arrested on March 12th, etc., etc. I'll try and skip the bit we already knew. Due to his prominent role in the notorious MS-13 transnational gangs, deported on March 15th to his home country. I like the idea that it's like, how dare you send him to his home country? That's barbaric. I mean, yes, it should be done properly, but still, it's not really that much, is it? Yeah, prominent role as Pug says. That is important. Just trying to see if we can get sort of any nugget of real data here that shows whether he is or not. Abrego Garcia was deported after President Trump signed a proclamation declaring another gang, Tren de Aragua, had invaded the United States. The proclamation directed immigration officials to deport members of that gang. So maybe it's like, yeah, he's not part of MS-13. He's part of Tren de Aragua, which is just as bad. So all this shit they were talking in the previous article was, yeah, he turns out he's not part of MS-13. Yeah, but he's part of the other one. Maybe that's what it is. 2 planes carrying illegal.
If that is the case, and he's part of the other one, yeah, that's literally just as bad.
Yeah, no, that's not an error. That's not an error. They've done the right thing there. 2 planes carrying illegal immigrants removed under Trump's proclamation took off early on March 15th, but the third, which took off after a judge ordered the administration to halt deportations under the proclamation, only carried illegal immigrants who had been ordered removed by judges, U.S. authorities have said. Abrego Garcia illegally entered the U.S. around 2011 before settling in Maryland. Immigration officers in 2019 took him into custody. Bruh, that's enough. I don't care whether he was in a gang or not. I don't know why I didn't assume he was an illegal immigrant as well, to be honest. I should have done. But if he's an illegal immigrant, I don't want to hear it. It doesn't matter if he was deported on the basis of being a gang member or not. You should get that right. But he's already committed enough of a crime to be deported in the first place.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zenman. I must have missed your message. Sorry. I'm still curious whether he is, though. An administrative judge determined that year that Abriga Garcia was a member of MS-13 and denied his request for release, finding he posed a risk to the community. He was also, quite a while ago, he was ordered deported later in 2019, but was also granted protection against removal to El Salvador because a different judge found Abriga Garcia was likely to face danger if he was sent back there. Bruh, not our problem. Is that a reasonable thing to say? Well, you send him somewhere else then. Oh, you can't do that. It's not his home country. Bruh, what can you do then? Federal law prohibits the deportation to their home countries of illegal immigrants who have been granted such protection. Should it? Chat, press 1 if it shouldn't. Press 1 if US law should not prohibit the deportation of someone to their home country just because their home country is dangerous. It's like, I get it from a humanitarian perspective, but it's not how you run a country. ICE was aware of this grant. Go on, Ginger.
Unfortunately, these people are native to the country in which they were born. The very people that still live there do not have the right to be extricated from there. So the people that have natural citizenship in these nations do not have the right to avoid being sent back.
Yeah. Wolf saying that it should be mandatory that where they're sent back to is dangerous. Melchizedek says most abused clause ever. I don't doubt that it has been abused. I mean, the whole point is they come from shitholes. It's every single country you could send them back to. US has massive issue with federal activist judges, a lot of whom aren't even American born. And I'm sure Soros funded too. Deport the judge too. Well, maybe genuinely. Thank you. See, Epoch Times. All the information we needed. Fantastic. ICE was aware of this grant of withholding of removal at the time Abriga Garcia's removal from the United States. Cerner said in the new declaration, internal forms under the protection. Abriga Garcia was not on the initial passenger list for the flight that took illegal immigrants from the United States and El Salvador on March 15th. According to the official, he was listed as an alternate, but as others were removed from the flight for unspecified reasons, not sure what that would be, Abriga Garcia moved up the list and was assigned to the flight. Good news, buddy, you have moved up the list, with the manifest not indicating that Abriga Garcia had protection against deportation. Abriga Garcia was removed because of an administrative error, Department of Justice lawyers said in another filing. Interesting. The filings were lodged with federal court in Washington. Okay, so even if so, as I mentioned before, it was right to deport him. Even if he wasn't supposed to be deported then, even if it was an error, like that he legally shouldn't have been, it's still ethically right that he was. So I don't really care. Unless there was some other extenuating circumstances we don't know about. Again, maybe he was a witness and he had protection. And again, maybe it wasn't an error. If the Trump admin is willing to say it was an error, they may be covering for the fact that it was intentional. They would rather it be perceived as an error than as an illegal action, defying the court because they know he's dangerous. Someone says, chat, press 1 to deport them to hell. I mean, that's what's happening anyway, right? The filings were lodged with federal court in Washington. They were in response to Abriga Garcia asking the court to compel the U.S. government to request that the El Salvadorian government return him to U.S. custody. The fact that the U.S. government is now saying we can't bring him back when they could make it happen indicates to me that maybe they knew and they wanted to get rid of him. It very well might be that they were fighting against activist judges here. He is married to a US citizen. I wonder how genuine that is. The government put Mr. Abriga Garcia on a plane to El Salvador, seemingly without any pretense of a legal basis whatsoever. He was a legal immigrant. He has a legal basis. His lawyers told the court in a filing, once in El Salvador, that country's government immediately placed Mr. Abriga Garcia into a torture center, one that the US government is reportedly paying the government of El Salvador to operate. This grotesque display of power without law is abhorrent to our entire system of justice and must not be allowed to stand, they say. That claim hinges very strongly on the words torture chamber. I think it's just a prison, but as I said, I'm open to hearing it if it is a torture chamber. Garcia's lawyers say their client, who is now married to US citizen, is not a member of MS-13 or any other kind. Go ahead, Ginger.
You might want to rephrase that.
Uh-oh.
I'm open to hearing it if it is a torture chamber. Might imply that you want to hear the noises coming out of the torture chamber.
Oh no more Barney the Dinosaur, please. Well, chat, we've now covered Mengele twice today's stream. If Mengele only had Barney the Dinosaur technology, think of what he could have done.
Oh God, no. Some thoughts do not worth bare thinking.
Chat, what is the Barney the Dinosaur song lyrics in German? Okay, you know what? This is a good use of time. Grok, hold on a second. Let me get this up so you guys can see it. This is definitely a good use of my time. Right, Grok. Please. Right. I am theorizing a very plausible situation in which German sadistic Dr. Mengele, I can't remember his first name.
Joseph.
Thank you. Joseph Mengele had access to horrifying modern torture technology of the Barney the Dinosaur song, famous for allegedly being used to torture prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. Please help me flesh out this theory, including by providing me a rendition of the song in German. Let's dive into this darkly comedic thought, says Grok. Experiment. Imagine Joseph Mengele, the infamous angel of death from Auschwitz, getting his hand on a twisted version of modern psychological warfare, the relentlessly cheerful Barney the Dinosaur song. Known for his sadistic experiments and complete lack of empathy, Mengele would likely have been fascinated by the idea of using something as innocuous as a children's tune to break the human spirit. Historical accounts suggest that during World War II, the Nazis did experiment with sound as a form of torture. Think blaring propaganda or discordant noises to disorient prisoners. Now, fast forward to a hypothetical scenario where Mengele survives the war, goes into hiding, which did happen, and somehow stumbles across this modern weapon of earworm torment, reportedly used at Guantanamo Bay to drive detainees up the wall, he says Elon. It's absurd, it's grim, and it's just plausible enough to work as a macabre comedy sketch. Oh my God. All right, ready? Are you ready? Chat, press 1 if we should continue this. Because it's pretty good.
I'm not
so
sure
far.
we should.
Are you questioning the ethics of reading this? Picture this, Mengele.
Look,
go on, Ginger.
There are some thoughts that should not be uttered into the world simply because to do so might manifest them into reality.
But funny.
Okay, you've convinced me.
Picture this. Mengele, holed up in some dingy South American hideout in the 1990s, which is almost accurate, gets wind of this purple dinosaur phenomenon sweeping American TV. He acquires a VHS of Barney and Friends, watches it with his cold, analytical gaze, and realizes its potential. This is an anime premise now, chat. The relentless repetition, the saccharine positivity. It's not just annoying, it's a psychological sledgehammer. He'd probably scribble notes in a tattered journal subjected to I love you, refrain for 72 hours, complete breakdown observed, fascinating. In his mind, it's the perfect evolution of his earlier methods. No scalpels needed, just a cassette player and a song that burrows into the brain like a parasite. He might even rig up a makeshift lab, forcing his unfortunate test subjects, let's say unlucky neighbors who complained about his late-night polka sessions, to endure it on loop, cackling as they beg for silence. Now for the German rendition, since Mengele would surely want this in his native tongue to maximize its cultural resonance. Let's translate the infamous I Love You song from Barney. The original English goes, we can skip the German opening. Ich lieb dich, du liebst mich. Wir sind ne frohe Familie. By the way, Doughty Bill, enjoy your torture session. You are suffering far more than they would be. Oh, Doughty Bill's not here. In that case, I'm free to go. Mit ner großen Umarmung und nem Kuss von mir zu dir. Sagst du nicht, du liebst mich hier? Translation back to English. That is the same thing. Imagine this blaring through Mengele's improvised torture chamber. Maybe he's got a scratched up tape deck, the lyrics warbling slightly off key as the machine struggles. He'd probably pair it with his signature creepiness, sitting in a chair, legs crossed, staring blankly as his victims writhe, muttering, Ja, singt mit, meine Lieben. Yes, sing along, my dears. The absurdity of a Nazi war criminal weaponizing a kid's song adds that layer of black comedy, it says, Barney's goofy grin clashing with Mengele's icy demeanor. Totalen Krieg. I wanted more translation. He says, to flesh this out further, let's see his experiments with variations, speeding it up to induce panic, slowing it down to... By the way, I don't think any of the other AIs would have done this. Thank you, Grok.
No.
Thank you. All right. I wonder... can you give me a translation of the rest of the song? I don't know if there are actually any other lyrics. The rest of the song, if there are any other lyrics. If, either way, are you able to render an audio version of what it would sound like? I don't think it can do that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Grok doesn't do audio.
German translation. Okay, that's the actual Barney song, not the right one. Text-based AI can't generate, upload audio files directly. Okay. He's going to describe it. Mengele found in a flea market. The German lyrics are sung in a slightly off-key, overly enthusiastic tone. A children's choir forced to perform under duress. With a children's choir forced to perform under duress. Yep, that's what I was looking for in this thought experiment. Forced to listen to Kamale, that's almost as bad. With a faint hiss of static in the background. Mengele might even add his own touch, a cold, spoken intro in German, something like Achtung, meine Lieben, jetzt beginnt die Lektion, which I think means, attention, my loves, here begins the lesson. Which is, yeah, pretty close. Followed by the relentless cheer of Barney ist ein Dinosaurier, booming through a tinny speaker. The tempo could be unnaturally slow, dragging out each syllable to maximize discomfort or sped up to a manic pitch, like a carnival ride gone wrong. Yeah, maybe.
This is definitely entering the realm of bizarre black comedy. And I would watch this.
Ich liebe dich, du liebst mich. Wir sind ne frohe Familie. Mit ner großen Umarmung und nem Kuss von mir du sehr. Sagst du nicht, du liebst mich hier? On a loop forever. Yeah, so there you go. That's congratulations, you have now seen the result of attempting to enhance my streams with AI. You posted a picture of Hitler riding a bicycle. Somnus. Looks like it is AI, because he's not actually holding the, the steering handle thing. Barney macht frei. John Wick, why have you posted that? Oh, it's Rammstein. That would explain it. Quattro, to be fair, I was doing it before you were doing it, or before I heard you doing it anyway. I must have got it from somewhere else. Much like Atronach is not the source of the true thing he does, though he has popularized it in Cabal, I think. Okay, chat. Was that worth it? Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Somnolux, we could put it through Suno. We could put it through Suno. Let's just get it to clarify. Are those the full lyrics? I think these must be the full actual lyrics then. Do you guys know? We could put this through Suno. If we go to here,
as far as I know, that is actually the full lyrics. It's just that on repeat.
I can make this work. So if I go to create on Suno, custom lyrics that, and I'd like you to just repeat that forever, if you'd be so kind. Styles. Barney the dinosaur. German folk. Let's do silly cartoon, German folk, and horror. What's the not MC actually, the other one. Dali. What's his style? Surreal. Horror surreal. Let's do surreal horror and then oops. Put that there. Yeah, let's just do that. Okay. We have that. We're using version 4 and so see if that works. Create. All right, it's given us some renditions, chat. Yeah, Wolf, we're definitely in the there is a point where we need to stop and we have clearly passed it. Let's keep going and see what happens. We're definitely at that point. Ich liebe dich, du liebst mich. Basically. All right, you should be able to hear this.
Ich lieb dich, du liebst mich. Wir sind eine frohe Familie.
Okay, this is just quite a good song by the sounds of it. You should see the fuck. This is the profile picture that it created. Yep, that's Barney. That's the Barney I know. That's the profile picture it made. And it made another one as well, and that one looks like this. Yep, that's Barney. I don't think Suno has quite understood the the task here. I think perhaps we have gone too far, and this was not going to end up being good. We'd have to be quite specific to get it to render something similar to this. However, here's the one thing that we haven't considered. Is it just available on YouTube? Is there just a German version available? Barney the Dinosaur, I Love You German. Yes, there is.
All right, Oozler, if you want to do this, set the play speed to 0.75 and then hit play.
All right, chat. You're in Mengele's den somewhere in South America, and you can hear this blaring out from one of the iron-doored holding cells.
I'm not hearing anything.
Me neither.
Interesting.
What a useless video! All right, let's try this one.
That second one has 1.3, has over 1 million views. That'll be the one to go for.
But is it actually in? Is it actually in German though?
This will be in German. Look at this.
Du magst mich, den besten Freund als ich gibt's nicht. Wir umarmen uns und ein Küsschen geb ich dir. Keiner ist so froh wie wir.
noises.
I think that's just noises of satisfaction while he's hugging these people that definitely aren't his victims.
Oh dear.
Sir Suspense just got here. Sir Suspense, if you have to ask what's happening, then maybe you're not part of MS-13 after all, and maybe you shouldn't have been deported. No, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just not part of Mengele's chosen few. Chat, are you favoured by the hand of Mengele? Are you sufficiently favoured by the hands of both Mengele and by the dinosaur to comprehend what we're talking about here? Me neither.
I don't want to be.
Me neither. So, Ginger, stinky sausage or this conversation?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is this what you were expecting to be doing today, Ginger?
No. I know never to have expectations when tuning into one of your streams, Uzulu, especially when AI starts getting involved.
Thank you, Ginger. I appreciate the faith you have in me. Or whatever that is. Good.
I'd say it's a flavour of faith. Absolutely.
Ronald just arrived. Ronald, here's an explanation for what we're doing.
Und ein Küsschen geb ich ihr. So froh wie
We're torturing random South Americans with Mengele.
Heil Hitler, I guess.
You figured it out. Oh wait, no, you were just saying that because you say that anyway. Never mind.
Well, yeah, I'm not really sure the context is.
Has Di gone to sleepy Betty Buys?
Possible. Well, she just went off Rivals. I don't know. Maybe you can ping her. She might be mad. She didn't sound happy.
At Lady Di, Hitler time. Should we just name this stream Hitler time? Well, it is the April Fool's stream. What was I going to do? Someone already DM'd Di the video. Look, if anyone is the offspring of Mengele, it's Di, let's be honest. Right, good. We've sorted that one out. So, anything else on this topic before we move on, chat or Ginger? Is it time to aggressively move on?
Frankly, I think that this moving on would be the correct course of action right here. Preferably swiftly.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
nicht. Wir umarmen uns und ein
I said swiftly.
Oh, right. Okay, let's try and find something good to talk about then. Or interesting. Oh, here's something really impactful. PUBG is integrating with Freerun. Pick two things that you never thought would come together.
Pick two things I hate more.
How could you hate Freerun, Donald? Ronald, whatever your name is. Quattro, would you like to come and complain about this? JDevs is kind of very racist towards demons in PUBG. If you can't be racist towards demons in PUBG before this, you absolutely should be able to after it. I mean, Jesus. This, I think this is official. Hold on. PUBG Freerun. We've gone from one sane story to another here, chat. The latest PUBG mobile collaboration is Freerun. Why? Yeah, Somnus. Why?
Hang on. PUBG Mobile?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that existed.
Why would you play PUBG on mobile?
Okay.
I
No.
think it might actually be bigger.
None of
than
this is fair.
normal PUBG.
It probably is.
They should
Freerun
all
announces PUBG. Oh, right. Well, it's March 29th. This is probably April Fool's, obviously, but very funny anyway. And, you know, it's going to turn out it's not, isn't it? It's going to turn out, like, what would possess them to make this connection? It's so random. The official X of the anime series shared a collaboration image through a tweet featuring Stark, Fern, Himmel, and Freerun. Why is Himmel a link, but the other one isn't? Oh, okay. They made an article about it, I guess. The last one was seen holding a level 3 helmet in the visual. No, level 4 armor is the best. Come on, guys. That's probably a reference almost no one gets at this point, because I used to play PUBG a bit back in the day. The caption of the tweet was titled PUBG, which is present in the image. Details of the franchise are currently unknown, etc., etc. Interestingly, they haven't mentioned April Fool's Day in this post at all. And it was posted, when specifically was it posted? That I think the only place in the world where that's April Fool's Day is like Australia. I don't know, maybe Japan? Is Japan's not plus 12, is it? Japan time zone.
No.
It's plus 9. So this was not posted on April 1st. Not even close.
Yeah, they exist in the future. Weird future people.
Forget time zones. This is 29th. I'm retarded. It's 2 days before April 1st. If this is an April Fool's Day joke, they fucking missed. Guys, I think it's fucking real. I think it's real. It's from the official Freerun account.
Whether it's real or not, I don't like it.
Quite.
Let's go back to Barney.
Chat, press 1 for Freerun PUBG and press 2 for Barney. Which is the more sane world? People fucking love Freerun because she's so autistic.
It's not just because she's autistic, it's because she's unironically extremely racist.
Yes. This fucking says Zoltrak and just shoots them. Plenty of art about this. No one attempting to verify whether it's actually real. Now, again, I would tend to assume this is April Fool's. However, it was posted 2 days before April 1st. Yes, do you know what either of these things are? Do you know what PUBG is, and do you know what Freerun is? If you know what either of them are, I'll be impressed.
I don't even know who I am.
Well, yes, you've joined at a good time of the stream. Here's what you missed.
Nen besseren Freund als dich gibt's nicht. Wir umarmen uns und ein Küsschen geb ich dir.
This blaring out of a iron-doored chamber in Joseph Mengele's secret South American hideout in the 1990s. That's today's topic, is that's what you missed. But yeah,
Can't confirm.
PUBG Freerun collab. 2 days early to be an April Fool's announcement. Still could be. But then I don't know if the Japs do April Fools. So it might actually not be. It might be real. Well, I got nothing more on that so far. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see what else has been going on. No, I don't think so, he is. What was... Oh, yeah. Speaking of April Fools, this is what it looks like on mobile. On desktop, it looks correct. But I wouldn't have seen it because I usually have, like, numerous notifications just sitting here that I haven't read yet. I had 17 when I set the profile picture to this. And the reason I then clicked mark as read, which was maybe a bit of a mistake. But yeah, now they're gone and I could see it for a while. It did look good, actually. It was correctly aligned, even with the newest Discord UI. And I got messages from some people saying, how dare you, this fooled me, or this fooled someone I know, or something like that. So it was quite funny, but it was also very crass and predictable. I did it only because I take the credit, but the blame goes to Spooner. It was Spooner's idea. He sent me the PNG. It's all his fault. I take the credit. He takes the fault. That's just how this relationship works, I'm afraid. So chat, go ahead and ping Spooner and say, how could you? My sainted mother was bowled over stone cold dead by the notification icon being incorrect. How could you, Spooner? Frankly, what's worse, what Mengele did or what Spooner has done? We're going to have to figure that out.
It's a tough call.
It is a tough call. Spooner, Ronald says, at Spooner, sending South American neo-Nazi hit squads to Belgium. I mean, I think Ronald has the ability to do that. It's only fortunate that he hasn't done it to us yet. But yes, this did actually fool a few people, apparently. Let's see what else we got. I'm trying to stick on things that are not too serious, but there are a few serious stories to go over today. What was this? Yeah. Members of President Trump's National Security Council have conducted government business over personal Gmail accounts. Now, Signal is one thing. Signal is actually not too bad for government work, even. Now, there may be better ones, but as far as I know, quite a few governments use Signal. It is end-to-end encrypted, supposedly, so that's not a bad choice. But Gmail, I wouldn't be so sure. This effectively means that Google has complete access to all government secrets. That's bad. We don't know how much of it was, and of course, this is fucking, it's April 1st, so we don't know if it's fucking true or not. But I could see it being true. Let's have a look, actually. This is from Washington Post. Let's see if we can find the source, see if it might actually be real.
Oozaloo, I
Yes.
have a potential suggestion. Since as I mentioned earlier, I'm needing to go to bed soon. Currently, Years is available to take my place. If you're looking for more stream company. I know
Sure.
I haven't been particularly talkative.
No, you're fine. I'm happy to bring Years on if she wants to come on. We're having a weird one today, Years. We're mixing and matching some comedic topics and some serious ones. All right, Years is able. We really must try and organize a more sciencey stream at some point, Ginger. When we both have more time. Welcome, Years.
Hello.
So, what are your bets going in? Is this story an April Fool's Day story, or did it really happen?
Well, if the screen wasn't black, I would tell you. I don't know why. Whenever you pulled me in here and I popped this open, let me close it and reopen it again. Discord does that sometimes. I don't know why it does that.
I can reset the stream if it would help.
Well, is it going to load?
I'll reset
Okay,
the
it loaded finally.
Oh, well done.
It loaded.
Good.
All right. Walls and staff use Gmail for government commit. I am going to say fact check true because everyone in government seems to be a fucking retard.
Unfortunately, yeah, pretty much. I think everyone, at least all the boomers in government, which is most of government, seem to be retards when it comes to tech. Yes. So let's have a look. Waltz and staff use Gmail for government communications, officials say. Trump's national security advisor is trying to manage his way out of a crisis, says Washington Post. Little tiny hint of bias there, but they might be correct. But new revelations about his team's operational security are piling up in the inbox, they say. Very clever. What's this button? Is this the AI button? I'm not going to click it. Members of President Donald Trump's National Security Council, including White House National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, have conducted government business over personal Gmail accounts, according to documents reviewed by the Washington Post in interviews with 3 U.S. officials. The use of Gmail, a far less secure method of communication than the encrypted messaging app Signal, is the latest example of questionable data security practices by top national security officials, already under fire for the mistaken inclusion of a journalist in a group chat about high-level planning for military operations. Now, we speculated that it's possible, not for sure, but possible, that including that journalist there was intentional to try and get a leak. But I think more likely not. More likely a fuck-up.
I am far more suspect of the Signal journalist editor story because I use Signal, and you can't accidentally add a name to a chat. You have to go out of your way to add a person on purpose. So that person was already connected to Waltz via Signal. And it would take a rather conspicuous series of, I fumbled with my phone and happened to open up I happened to hold my thumb on the add a person and then scroll down to this person and then accidentally bump it. I don't see how you can accidentally go through your list and add someone to a chat.
Well,
that seems really suspect to me.
Not all accidents have to be motor function accidents. It could have been that they were trying to add one person and clicked on the name next to them and got them mixed up. It could be that they thought they forgot who that person was. Maybe they had a similar name to someone else and they clicked the right one.
But if it's that kind of accident, then I default to my he's a fucking retard stance. If you're in the government in a serious position and you bring in a fucking editorial journalist for a major outlet, surely you would notice that you brought in the wrong name. I mean, come on.
You'd think so.
You're working for national security, you fucking putz. How do
Yeah.
you make that mistake? God.
Apparently, it was somewhat like a staffer or an aide working for Waltz that added him. Now, the other option, like, there's 3 options that I see, major options. The first one is just incompetence of some kind. The second one is deliberate leaking of whatever they were trying to leak, which is possible. But the third one is the journalist paid off the staffer to be added.
Possibly. Because, I mean, we all know that a lot of corrupt shenanigans go on. And we know that the regime, whether left or right, the American regimes have always used misdirection to make people pay attention to things while they're doing other things they don't want people to pay attention to. So all of this crap with Waltz and the Signal stuff and all this Gmail bullshit, it could just be totally just the usual regime distraction of, oh, let's make a big thing. Oh, let's talk about UFOs. Oh, let's drum up the JFK files and make people talk about that. Like, it could be any of that. Like, we don't know where the misdirection and purposeful fumbling is and the genuine fucking retard fumbling is. We don't know.
If this was Democrats, I would assume it's more like, well, I don't know, because there's plenty of incompetence there as well. But generally, the level of the willingness to use misdirection and also the incompetence of Democrats is just high in both cases. With Republicans, you do get a bit of this. With Margaret, you do get some of this, but it's not as bad, I don't think. However, it gets reported on more, I expect. And if there is misdirection, I am more willing to trust with Margaret that it's for a good reason. Because they're fighting the press. So the Democrats aren't. Democrats are fighting with the press. MAGA has to fight against the press. Ronald says the entire admin has been hilariously incompetent. I wouldn't go that far, but it's not great. I mean, most of them haven't been in government before. They've been in politics, but not in government. I'm willing to give them a little bit of time, especially because they are doing good things generally. But they got to get a handle on this kind of thing. This is pretty basic. A senior Waltz aide used the commercial email service for highly technical conversations with the colleagues at other government agencies involving sensitive military positions and powerful weapon systems relating to an ongoing conflict, according to emails reviewed by the Post. While the NSC official used his email account, his interagency colleagues used government-issued accounts, headers from the email correspondence show. Yeah, that's so another Waltz aide. This is the second one in like a week. So Waltz needs to get his people in order. Stop being retards should be the title of his speech. Waltz has had less sensitive but potentially exploitable information sent to his Gmail, such as his schedule and other work documents, said officials who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe what they viewed as problematic handling of information. The officials said Waltz would sometimes copy and paste from his schedule into Signal to coordinate meetings and discussions. Like, I understand that if you're stuck in the Google ecosystem, it's hard to leave it. But for goodness sake, has there ever been a better reason to leave it than that you're in a counter-establishment government? That I cannot think of a better reason to leave it. So for goodness sake, make the effort.
I think it's just proof that people who are in this government regime, whether it be Trump's or whatever, but due to their age, due to them not being, internet people like us, I think a lot of them just don't understand how boomer stupid they are with tech and how it makes them look like fools to everyone else. I think they might just not understand. I mean, Waltz isn't that old, but maybe he just is not an internet person. Maybe he never played games or cared about smartphones or computers or anything. So to him, he thinks, okay, my Gmail account is my official work account. I am told it's encrypted. I'm told Gmail is the best. And maybe like a lot of idiots, he just believes it. Because we know that a lot of people in government are just bell curve. They're just bell curve people in IQ and EQ and all the other metrics. They're just ladder climbers and they're part of the club. So I never discount just genuine stupidity and bell curve retardation.
It's quite possible, yeah. It's quite possible. And I can readily say that while still supporting the intent, as I think we are able to, because you can't always guarantee you're going to get people that know everything they're supposed to. And I think Ronald is saying fire him. Maybe. It depends how incompetent he personally has been. But at the very least, tell him, here's what you're supposed to do, last chance. because holy shit, you don't want to fuck this up. You don't want to fuck this up. It looks like the Washington Post here, possibly, well, I don't know actually, but for all we know, they could have actually got the information about the military positions, powerful weapon systems, etc., like they got from the discussion in the Signal chat about Yemen. They might have got this information and just decided not to publish it. So it was up to the press to publish it or not. Now, because they didn't publish it, they likely don't have it. But they got information that that's what was being done from leaks within the administration. And they could just as easily have got the information itself. So yes, that needs to be fixed. And as I mentioned earlier, what this means is that if they really want to, Google has access to government-sensitive data just because they're providing the infrastructure. And as far as I would be surprised if there's been any agreement from Google saying that they agree not to look into this on pain of their company being broken up on national security grounds, or if the CEO being fired or imprisoned, or like if there's that kind of agreement, you can begin to consider using their service, but I still wouldn't recommend it. But I doubt there's even been that. I bet they're just using it as just civilians, just as they always have been. But now they're not civilians anymore, and so their email's value has increased, skyrocketed, and Google has access to it if they want to. So no, they should be using something that has been properly and technically vetted.
Okay,
Yeah, and
I have just discovered that apparently my primary school level of reading comprehension skills have apparently left me. So I'm going to bid you good night and enjoy the stream.
Thank you for joining
I had
us.
some playing Dark Tide with you earlier.
Thank you for joining
it
us,
was
Ginger.
absolutely lovely.
And remember, ich lieb dich, du liebst mich.
Hopefully I will at some point be able to forget. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, Ginger.
Good night. When it comes to government people using Gmail and making these kind of mistakes, I think that even though general stupidity, boomer retardation, etc., is always likely, we have to look at the behavior of the CIA, the FBI, and the media, and how these things have worked together for literally 80 years to create narratives and to distract people. And you can also never discount that either. So it pretty much is a 50-50 of, is this just stupid or is this a bluff or a misdirection? We can't really know, because we know, like we've seen from the Twitter files and going all the way back to books that were written in the 70s and 80s about how the CIA and the FBI operatives were leaning on radio and TV media to allow and disallow certain things and to shape narratives around every type of war that America's ever been in, to change the civil rights stuff. We know that media misdirection and media culture nudging has always been a thing. And I have no reason to believe that ever stopped. So I just, I can't say one way or the other, but I think you can never discount either one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's with the new administration, if we're assuming incompetence is a possibility, then their incompetence to do this kind of psyop bluffing should theoretically be greater as well. As I said, like it takes small scale knowledge to know to use Signal rather than Gmail, but it takes large-scale knowledge to know how to do these psyops. And I haven't seen anywhere near as much of an indication from Trump that he does them as from the Democrats. There's a little bit of it. There's some deliberate leaks. There's some, hey, I'm going to do this, and then he's just saying it to test what the public think. But I haven't seen much of an indication of actual psyops from Trump's people. So that's where I'd lean. Probably incompetence. But maybe they're just trying their hand at it.
Musk has been known to do this kind of shit before.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yep. And since he's
also,
involved, it might have been it, especially because it's tech related. Go on, yes.
And also keep in mind, it can be both at the same time. It can be, oh, hey, we know this guy doesn't know tech well. We are going to make sure he does a blunder, and then we are going to use it. Like, I'm not saying that Waltz is behind it. I'm just saying that the fact that the media makes us all pay attention to this and it's everywhere, well, whose fault is that? The people who push and nudge media. So
maybe they're trying to find who in Waltz's team they can trust. I mean, two of them. now have
True.
reported back to the press. Although
It can
one of
also
them
be that.
was part of the press, so that doesn't really make sense, does it? But he was added by another member of the administration.
And I have not looked into this at all. I only know the
Yeah.
very surface level. So my opinion might change dramatically if I dig into this. So I'm just saying, I have very little information about this particular topic because I just don't care.
I don't think there's much more information available than what is here. I mean, this is the original source of the release. Okay, NSC spokesman Brian Hughes said he has seen no evidence of Waltz using his personal email as described, and said on occasions when Legacy contacts have emailed him work-related materials, he makes sure to CC his government email to ensure compliance with federal records law that require officials to archive official correspondence. Waltz didn't and wouldn't send classified information on an open account, said Hughes. I believe what's being alleged is that one of his staff has, but he himself probably hasn't. Yeah, we covered that from, I think, last stream or the stream before some of us. So, NSC spokesperson, National Security Council, I assume spokesperson Brian Hughes, says Waltz hasn't done this himself. When asked about a Waltz staffer discussing sensitive military matters over Gmail, Hughes said NSC staff have guidance about using only secure platforms for classified information. I hope they understand what that means, though, because most people don't. Waltz has also created and hosted other Signal chats with cabinet members on sensitive topics, including on Somalia and Russia's war in Ukraine, and, well, that's how they word it, and a senior administration official. The existence of those groups was first reported by the Wall Street Journal on Sunday. Hughes said that Signal is approved and in some cases is added automatically to government devices. He acknowledged that it is not supposed to be used for classified material and insisted Waltz never used it as such. I think Signal can be used for classified stuff. I don't know, maybe not. Waltz's creation of a Signal group chat that discussed sensitive information. This is why Signal will probably remain good to use, because governments need something they can use which is actually encrypted. And so if it's a commercial app that you can use as well, then unless they figure out a way of doing some two-tier that you can't perceive, it's probably going to be secure. So Signal is if I wanted to make damn sure my messages were secure, it would be Signal. Oh my God, there's a bug. Waltz's creation of a Signal group chat that discussed sensitive information included Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. Oh, right, we covered that before. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I believe that is going to be about it, then. The rest of this is just background. Personal email, widely knowledge to be set for hacking. Unless you are using GPG, email is not end-to-end encrypted, and the contents of a message can be intercepted and read at many points, including on Google's email servers, indeed. Alarm, malicious denial, that leaks Signal tracking classified information, which it did, but it might not have actually jeopardized anything. So, in advance of the Trump administration's March attack, I wasn't sure whether it was before or after with the Signal leak. I think that's about all from this source, but we may find out more later. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, this is some probably good news. Trump admin deports more than 100,000 illegal migrants in first 70 days of second term. It's a good start.
Better than nothing.
Yep. President Trump's new administration has supported over 100,000 illegal migrants since taking office and arrested more than 110,000. Is that in addition? I hope so.
Yes.
The numbers, good. The numbers are a combination of arrests and deportations by both U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection. News comes from illegal, blah, 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 blah. Far cry from more than 11,000 a day we saw from a time period under Biden, Homan said. Hold on a second. A far cry from more than 11,000 a day that we saw for a time period under Biden. The men and women of the Border Patrol have proven that what they can accomplish, they are allowed to do their job. Oh, hold on. Reportedly encountering just 7,000 migrants in March.
Yeah, 7,000 in a month as opposed to 11,000 a day last year.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
So that's a big improvement. That's a big improvement. Yes.
Like Ginger, my reading comprehension appears to have gone slightly downhill. Perhaps the Barney the Dinosaur did not help. But yeah, that's a massive improvement. That's very good. And that's the thing is that's encounters. Where did I say that actually? Yes, encounters. That doesn't mean we caught them and sent them back over. Of course, it does in fact likely mean that. But under Biden, it might not have done. But what that means is just people trying to come over, or at least people that have been spotted trying to come over. Now, you'd think that if you increase border security, you might find more of them because you are finding more of them. But increasing border security also acts as a disincentive. So I expect what's happening there, and this is very good news, is that just less are trying because they know they're not going to get through. The disincentive is mostly by policy, not so much by what's actually at the border. You do need a border force, obviously, but that's not the main way you keep people from coming to your country. You have enough, but then as long as they can't stay, they can't prosper from coming in, then they won't bother. Go on, yes.
And there's another part of this too, with Doge shutting off the U.S. AIDS spigot. Remember, a lot of the NGOs were almost completely shut down because of the USAID money going away.
Yes.
And remember, a huge portion of the migrants that flood not just my country, but your country as well, are because of these cancerous, evil, anti-white organizations that go around the world educating migrants on how to come in and exploit our systems and our government. So with that shut off as well, and the cultural pushback and the policy pushback and allowing Border Patrol and ICE to do their jobs, then all of that sort of adds together to massively cut down on immigration.
It should do, yes. There was someone in chat recently, I think it was Ronald, who mentioned that that at least some, if not most, of that USAID money had actually been just moved to a different department supplying it. I didn't hear anything about that, but that's something to be cautious of if that has happened. But if, as has been at least implied by government, it has been shut off, then that will have helped. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I mean, the best proof, as far as I'm concerned, is that Vorsh started begging for money just as the USAID spigot got supposedly shut off. So that's good enough for me. There you go. James got it. All right. Well, glad to see that James is a big Black Vorsh fan.
James sent me a link to a 9-minute video that breaks down the quote-unquote Trump genius move of releasing this stuff in regards to the email. I assume you don't want to watch it on air, but it's there. It's from a guy who has like 400,000 subs. I've never heard of this guy before. His name's Matt Morse, but I don't know.
Okay. We could have a look. What is this GIF? It does nothing. Your GIF isn't GIFing, Jadev.
This is the link. I'll put it in the live chat.
Just drop it in live chat. Trump's master plan.
Now, again, I know nothing about this content creator. I know nothing about this video. And I know nothing about Mr. James Boop, who sent it to me. I have no idea about any of this. So
I'll have a look. We might not watch much of it, chat, even if it is good information, because I'm not here to just convey to you what the internet is saying. I'm going to have my own opinions, but we'll have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, shut up for a second. We'll have a look. I don't know anything about this guy either, but we'll see what he says. It might just be highly speculative. Let's find out.
By now, you've probably heard the story about how the Trump administration accidentally leaked some messages about the ongoing conflict in Yemen.
Can we do 1.5 speed?
Yeah, I'll do 1.25. I don't want to misrepresent him accidentally. Bear in mind that this bears a striking resemblance to all of the QAnon stuff, which I have no doubt was a psyop. Which was the whole, like, everything that's happening is part of Trump's plan, like during the Biden admin, which it wasn't. But yeah, that was very silly. And this is sounding like that, so some caution.
I told you that those messages weren't accidentally leaked at all, but rather they were intentionally released. Now, I know that might sound crazy, but I promise, if you guys bear with me, you might begin to understand what I'm talking about. So to really understand what's going on...
Is it just the 1.25 speed that makes him look really dumb?
Like, no, he just looks dumb.
Not just his face, but the bouncing up and down of the head and the voice, the intonation carrying in the same pattern of bouncing up and down. It's very odd. It's almost like he's trying to pretend to be a content creator, but I expect he's doing it intuitively.
On here, what do you say we actually take a look at what these leaked messages have to say? Now, these leaked messages start off with Vice President J.D. Vance showing hesitancy to bomb the Houthi terrorists in Yemen because he doesn't want to, quote, bail Europe out again. Then he goes on to say that if they do bomb the Houthi pirates, they should be cautious to not accidentally bomb any Saudi Arabian oil facilities in the region. As things stand right now, the Houthi terrorists have shut down almost all the maritime traffic going in and out of the Red Sea and ultimately the Suez Canal. Now, interestingly, only around 3% of the United States maritime traffic actually goes through the Suez Canal, whereas in comparison, a whopping 40% of Europe's maritime traffic goes through that canal. So what this means is that right now, while the Houthis are shutting down the Red Sea, America isn't really impacted that much. But for Europe, this situation is an absolute economic crisis. So this is what JD Vance is talking about when he mentions bailing Europe out. And then, of course, he also mentions taking precautions as to not damage any of Saudi Arabia's oil facilities. And as you all know, President Trump and the Saudis have a reasonably close and friendly relationship. Then, if we move on to the next leaked message, this is where Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth enters the picture. In response to JD Vance, Pete Hegseth agrees that he's also sick of Europe's freeloading. He even calls it pathetic. Then, he goes on to say that beyond the United States of America, no one in the Western world is even capable of stopping the Houthis, which is why he feels like it's our obligation to do so.
I feel like what this is going to end up being is, so far, it's quite plausible stuff. It seems probably above board, but it's going to end up being, here's my plausible explanation, therefore it's true. Like, you got to do more than that. You got to do more than just make, like, your theory is to be falsifiable. How could this be false? Like, you haven't demonstrated that it's true. Like, you've given us a possibility, but he's acting very certain that it is true. We can keep going and see if we can find anything, but...
Then we see a message from someone initialed SM, presumably Stephen Miller, who says that the United States needs to make it very clear to both Egypt and Europe that if we do end up bombing the Houthis and reopening the Red Sea, we need to be reimbursed for our involvement. Now, folks, that's pretty much the substance of these leaked messages, so we have a lot to unpackage here. But okay, folks, what are the key points that we can extract from these leaked messages? First, we learn that the Trump administration is incredibly critical of Europe, calling them freeloaders guilty of piggybacking on America's defense budget. We also learn that the Trump...
This sounds like it's written by an AI. It's performed by a person, but it sounds like it's written by an AI. He's giving us all this background. We don't need this.
Values America's strategic relationship with Saudi Arabia, taking extra care to avoid accidentally striking Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure while attacking the Houthis. And finally, we learn that the United States...
Can you pause it?
Yeah.
Newsfist and I, we use Grok to compile dense political material and books that were written in the last 100 years. And like we'll say, okay, we need you to go through Solzhenitsyn's 200 years together and mine this. And we need you to compare what he thinks versus what David Icke thinks versus what blah, blah, blah. And we have Grok tell us a summary. This sounds exactly like the summaries Grok gives us.
That's what I'm saying.
The way this guy, like everything this guy is reading, it sounds like he's just reading verbatim something that Grok spat out.
I mean, the background's AI. So I'm pretty sure this guy is using AI to write his scripts and is using AI through the background. He's just performing it. It's I'm not saying that's wrong even. It's just, it's not particularly encouraging.
Not wrong. It's not very enlightening so far. Like I already knew all of this so far. So
yeah, I think we well, at least we knew most of it. Die, you literally ruined the end tower. How could you?
States isn't just going around and doing Europe's and Egypt's dirty work for free. No, rather they're compensating.
I'm sorry, what was that, Die?
I said, shut the fuck up.
Oh, okay. Are you feeling any better today, Die?
Slander.
Die's got a new PC.
Her
Yes, Die's got a new PC, but she refuses to use it. Die, you can come on the host channel if you like.
Compensating us for our direct military.
It might be, but you missed all the fun stuff, Die. You weren't here for the beginning of the stream.
This seems real fucking boring stuff.
This particular story is quite dry. However,
the boring
you
stuff
missed...
is what I like, so that's why I'm here.
True, but Die, you missed this. PUBG free run crossover.
Oh my god, we have to start playing PUBG.
If we can shoot demons, sure. You also missed you also missed the story about Hitler surviving not World War II, fleeing to Argentina, and becoming Angela Merkel's father. You also missed this.
Keiner ist so froh wie wir.
So, if you want to find out what that was about, Die, then be here on time next time.
Nah, I'm good.
All right, on the basis that this was AI generated, I'm going to fucking leave it. But this guy probably will not have any actual evidence that it was this. Just here's a plausible explanation how it, like, why it could be. And yes, quite possible.
Well, we're already a third of the way through. We could finish it in like 3 minutes if you want to put it on 1.5.
I'll put it on 1.5. Okay.
Just to see.
We'll rattle through the grok, shall we?
Involvement. So in summary, these leaked messages concretely echo President Trump's America First agenda. As he's publicly said on numerous occasions, the United States is done giving free handouts to other countries. If other countries expect America to police the far reaches of the world, we'd better be getting compensated for it. But okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why would the Trump administration intentionally leak these messages? Well, as we previously talked about, these leaked messages make 3 big points: our frustration with Europe's sense of entitlement, the value we place on our relationship with Saudi Arabia, and that the United States of America is no longer cleaning up other people's messes without being reimbursed.
It's very repetitive. Get on with it!
For doing so. Now, for months, years really, Europe has been collectively dragging its feet when it comes to their NATO defense spending. On top of that, over the last several years, the United States of America has actually contributed more to Ukraine's defense than all of Europe has combined. And then, on top of all of that, despite President Trump's very clear message that Europe needs to
Look at Bolton back there. It looks so stupid. Hold on a second. It's a brilliant photo, by the way, but I just gotta get fucking Bolton in there. Come on.
F's in the chat for Shinzo.
Yes. Shinzo was my man. Dai, are you feeling sad about not having any legs?
needs to finally start pitching in their fair share, they've generally been non-receptive to that request, to say the least. So while keeping all of that in mind, these leaked messages further express to Europe just how serious the Trump administration really is about no longer single-handedly subsidizing Europe's defense. Those days are over, and President Trump reasonably expects Europe to start footing some of their own defense bill. Now, these leaked messages also come at a time when China is attempting to build a comprehensive relationship with Saudi Arabia. You see, for decades, the United States of America has maintained several multi-billion-dollar arms agreements with the Saudis, but just earlier this year, in fact, a couple months ago, China attempted to swoop in and undercut our trade agreements, offering to sell the Saudis Chinese-made weapons for pennies on the dollar. On top of that, China is also attempting to negotiate various energy deals with the Saudis in an attempt to box the United States out of the region. So pretty much, right this very moment, China is doing everything it can to break up the strategic relationship that the United States has with Saudi Arabia. So with these leaked messages, we send a very clear message to the Saudis that not only are we willing to clean up the trash that's on their doorstep, but we're also taking care to avoid any Saudi Arabian collateral damage. And then finally, these leaked messages hammer home the narrative that America First really is our country's guiding philosophy as we move forward as a country. The message is this: America is done giving the entire world a free ride at the expense of the American taxpayer. Yeah, we're willing to help take care of some of the terrorists in Yemen, but we're not going to be doing it for free. Especially when you consider that this issue in the Red Sea isn't really America's issue. It doesn't really even impact us that much. So folks, all of that covers why the Trump administration would actually want these messages to be leaked. But now let's consider how all of this actually happened. You see, a group chat was made on the encrypted messaging application called Signal, which included 14 top Trump administration officials and one journalist, the journalist that was accidentally added. Curiously, this journalist is a guy named Jeffrey Goldberg, who's well known for having an insane anti-Trump bias. In fact, this journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, has actually reported on numerous fake stories about President Trump, like the debunked story that Trump called U.S. veterans suckers and losers. So like I said, very curiously, it was this journalist, of all the journalists in the world, that was added to this group chat. And then, on top of that, it was actually Trump's national security advisor, a guy named Mike Waltz, that added Jeffrey.
I had no idea he looked so Chadley, dude. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either, to be honest. We will move on in a minute, but I'm just seeing if there's like, is there anything else to this?
That isn't Matt Waltz.
All right, hold on. Don't forget, it's not Kamala's VP. That's a different Waltz.
Oh,
yeah, there he is. Oh, Michael.
No, I know that.
Did he
That's
say
not Matt Waltz, is it?
So like I said, very curiously, it was this journalist, of all the journalists in the world, that was added to this group chat. And then, on top of that, it was actually Trump's national security advisor, a guy named Mike Waltz, that added.
It's Mike. Okay, so Matt Waltz was the other guy. Mike Waltz. Yeah, that is actually him.
Never mind. I got it confused with the other Jew. They all look the same to me.
Which other Jew, out of interest, were you thinking about?
Walls.
Okay, that is Kamala's VP.
No. Never mind.
Okay. Well, maybe there may be three people here. I don't know of two.
It's Jews all the way down.
Goldberg to the group chat. Now, for those of you that don't know, Mike Waltz isn't just some random idiot. In fact, he's a former Army Special Forces officer.
He's a very specific idiot.
He's a very special idiot.
Stars for heroic achievement. So folks, if anyone's going to know about operational security, it's going to be Special Forces Officer Mike Waltz. So you know what? Here's my guess as to what happened here. This journalist, Jeffrey.
Him being in the military does not necessarily mean he understands the technology involved, but Maybe he does.
But
Ravenos says,
let's
are we sure
hear
that,
him out.
Yeah.
We're getting to the actual opinion part that I want to hear this.
Rav says, are we sure the talking head is not AI as well? I don't think it is.
Jeffrey Goldberg was intentionally added to this group chat knowing that he'd be unable to help himself from leaking the chat logs. Then, he was spoon-fed a bunch of inconsequential information that, if leaked, would actually just end up pushing President Trump's America First agenda. Because now, as a consequence of these leaks, Europe has been put on notice that their days of freeloading are over, Saudi Arabia has been reassured that we have their backs and value our strategic relationship with them, and most importantly, the entire world knows we mean business when we say America First. But I'll tell you the truth, regardless of what really happened here, I've given you my opinion, of course, none of this actually makes the Trump administration look bad. In fact, I think it actually makes them look good, because now we know for a fact that behind closed doors in their private conversations, they're just as America First as they are out in the open. But everyone, I understand this is a big...
So that's actually a good point, is that what's revealed is that they're not duplicitous, they're not any different in private, which is quite useful, unless they're deliberate leaks, in which case it doesn't reveal that. They could have been acting for that as well, but I don't think they are. So what this video is laying down is, yes, it is plausible. It adds some fuel to the fire of, yes, it's plausible. And yes, it's plausible. I assumed it was plausible in the first place. Thank you, video. You've not proven anything, though you've acted as if you have. But yes, it is plausible. And yes, Somnus, I have seen the Jeet Shaker green text. It's very good. Maybe I should...
Sorry,
go on, yes.
But that really didn't tell us anything, and I don't know what you expected us to get from that.
There was a bit
It's
of
just-
geopolitics in this that I didn't know, but it didn't make a lot of difference.
Well, here's my take on this, on what we just observed. This person has a bias, and that bias influences his opinion. This person is clearly a Turbo America Civnat type of person who loves the Trump regime and who is behind Trump and think Trump and Trump is his guy. Trump is not my guy. When I see Vance, who has a non-white wife, who has made very blatant anti-white statements, especially in his book about being a hillbilly and hating being a hillbilly, and then you see another Jew in the comment trash talking and talking shit about Europe. Well, to me, I just see in all of this is actually signaling, look, we are Israel first. We are kissing the ring of our masters. We're making this blatantly obvious. That's what I see when I see that.
I would not go quite that far, but I'm sympathetic to the reasons you've said that. This guy he seems on the sort of QAnon axis, but probably I would actually be a bit more materialist with the reasons for why this guy has done this. He has taken what could have been a 2-minute video of, here's why I reckon it's possible these leaks were deliberate, and extended it to a 9-minute video of, here's why if it for sure was, on the basis of nothing. Just for
And also,
the
that's not a
user
genius
principle.
plan. So I think this content creator is dubious, and I would never trust anything from him again.
I would go to some extent in that direction, yes. Of course, there's still a big assumption that he's even real.
That's probably a real person. I don't think that guy
Yeah.
is AI.
No, AI is not quite that good yet, but it may be soon. But the script, I think, was AI. Farmer says, stop, he's already dead. We've beaten him enough. Let's get on with it. Let's see what else we have today. What was our other main story? I think there's one thing that we didn't cover yet.
Did you talk about the Myanmar earthquake yet? It was crazy.
No, we haven't, actually. If you have an article for that, please do link it. But what I wanted to look
I
at...
don't on hand. I'm on my gaming
Okay.
rig. My work computer is put up right now.
Fair enough. This is what I was going to talk about next. Germany's Stern magazine calls for conscription of young people to take up arms to defend diversity in pro-war propaganda piece. Prepare to be disgusted, chat. German youth should die for ethnic food restaurants. That's editorialization, I think, but probably not too far off. And LGBT museum exhibits according to the logic of the new Germany. This is not great. And notice they've put a woman in
Put
military
another
outfit there as well.
nickel in the Hitler's rock bucket.
Wouldn't go quite that far, but I can see why you're saying it. Stern magazine is calling for mass conscription of German youths to join the army, including to ensure the defense of freedom and diversity. Only one of which we have, and not of the good kind. The reaction to the article has been harsh, to say the least, with hundreds of negative comments directed at Stern. Now, this is from a site called Remix, which it seems is biased, favoring our side of the narrative, but we'll try to cut through the bias as we would if they were the other side. The article entitled Others No Longer Defend Us, Then We Must Do It Ourselves claims that the USA no longer wants to protect Germany. This brings a bitter realization our unbearable complacency must end. Now, that's actually true. That part, that Europe should be willing to defend itself rather than letting the US do it. Something I must say that the UK is among, or exactly, the least guilty in Europe of, but still somewhat guilty of it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it is worth
that's true.
pointing out, though, Uzulu, that
But conscripting the youth, not necessary.
Well, I'm just talking about bigger picture Europe here.
Mm.
I do want Europe, and not as a single thing. I want the countries of Europe to be healthy, nationalistic, and to have their own militaries and to defend themselves and to work out all of their continental European problems together without making war on each other. I do want that. But I also think it is a very ugly and incorrect stance to say Europe is just freeloading off the United States. No. Europe is suffering from the American regime, the military-industrial complex, and the Zionists that push Israel, running a mafioso protection racket on Europe, and cucking it for Israel for 80 years. And if anybody in the world's owed reparations, it's continental Europe from the United States.
Interesting. I think it might be a hard argument to make because there's a lot of indirection there, but you might be right, yes.
I think that if America really was a good guy, then they would stop being Zionists. They would cut off aid to Israel, let nature take its course in the Middle East, get in good with both Iran and Saudi Arabia, while also working to dismantle NATO and work the UN and the EU into a more defense and for the good of Europeans organization to help wean Europe off of the 80 years of the mafia racket and to reinstate actual European national sovereignty. That is what I think, if America was really a good guy to Europe, that's what it would do. But as we all know, we are led by anti-white Zionists, so they are not going to do that.
A lot of that might be too much all at once. I think if you do too much all at once, even a stability based on unhealthy connections can be better than the instability that might cause. That might be a good end goal. Yes. I mean, for all nations to be independent, to ally with each other only through organizations and treaties which are subnational. I agree with that. Letting nature take its course with Israel, I mostly agree. But there are some aspects of that where it wouldn't be wise in terms of power politics, even if it would be right in principle. And I can see why there would be contention on that.
I think it could be done. I think that if we had noble men who actually cared about the peoples of our wonderful or previously wonderful countries, I do think that they could work something out that would be good for all of us. But it would require doing things that are taboo to speak about, like getting rid of all the Muslims, Jews, and Hindus in our countries, actually making men be men and women be women, speaking the truth about how evil and disgusting things like birth control and transgenderism are. But nobody's going to do that. But that's what it would take. And if the leaders of our countries got together and wanted to do that, I absolutely believe they could.
Some of those things are already on the cards for discussion and already being done. Some of them are, maybe further off or maybe not necessary to get to a point of stability. But I think things are heading in a better direction now than they have been anyway. Datibula says none of the diversity stuff was in the actual article, just FYI. This source may indeed be somewhat biased, but we'll read through. They say the solution, start drafting German youth to fight in future wars. The author Tilman Gervain, a German male noticeably past the age of someone who might typically be drafted, says that the days of a dollhouse-like bullaboo are over and we have to grow up. He details the left's traditional stance against conscription, which saw German youths demanding American troops leave Germany, was not only a matter of conscience but also a lifestyle. He noted that the demonstration against NATO, people hopped around in peace-loving spirits, chanting out of NATO into fun. All of this has to end, according to Gervian. There is no way to know if Gervian was ever a part of these previous protests or ever shared these sentiments at one time, but it's notable that he's now old enough to not have to face the draft himself. They say he does look quite old. I assume that's him. Since Hitler, no one has ever agitated against Russia as much as he did, it says. From Friedrich Merz. Remind me of when I was 9 years old, what's happening here is a disaster. Part of a trend in the German establishment left, suddenly becoming gung-ho in recent years. since Putin invaded Ukraine. The old Green Party ideas of removing NATO from Europe and pursuing anti-war agenda have been jettisoned. In this sense, much of the establishment left has become outright hawkish. Essentially, the US saying, Europe, like, build up your own defenses, be independent, defend yourself, rather than us doing it all for you, has been taken by the European establishment as an excellent opportunity to spin the story as, yes, we will start conscription and send all our young natives to die in foreign lands, which is unfortunate because I think they wanted to do that anyway. Unfortunately, by doing the right thing, Trump and his administration have given them an avenue to make that easier, which I think is probably inevitable. It's not indication that they've done the wrong thing, I don't think. I'm not sure what more you could have done there, but it's probably going to increase resistance to these kinds of governments in Europe, at the very least. Because I doubt many people are going to be willing to go along with this.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think so.
Yeah, the whole thing of like, which is often said, and is at least somewhat true, that Western people are too soft and weak and don't have what it takes to actually stand up for their government. That also applies to going to a foreign war. The mad radicals on Reddit who voluntarily went to Ukraine and then got killed because they're retards, they would be a very small, exceptional number of people who are very ideological and very stupid who went to war. And it's that kind of very small portion of the population who are willing to go to war but not able to properly go to war. And that applies to the rest as well. So the idea of conscription, it's not that they couldn't make it happen, but they're going to have to work on this as a propaganda piece for years before they actually manage to get a significant number of people doing it.
I thought this was about getting people to sign up willingly. I didn't think this was about conscription.
I think they mentioned conscription.
They did. Oh, calls for conscription. Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Oh,
I think what's happening here
Jesus.
is it's Stern magazine, so I don't know how popular this is. It sounds like it's from the way these guys write, and it's obviously a bit biased. Tilman Gervain is the one that's written it. Maybe he is some kind of mad ideologue. Maybe this is a pretty niche paper and it's calling for conscription. Maybe it's not even the establishment's narrative. It is a group that's allied with the establishment, but is otherwise kind of a small radical breakaway group. That's saying
given
this.
how paused and cancerous the EU and the German government leaders are, if they're going to conscript people, it's just to get more white boys killed for Israel. Or second Israel, which is Ukraine. Like I don't see this being anything along the lines of actually being good for Europeans or Germans and making things better. This is just more blood for the blood god here. I don't see anything good for us coming from this.
Dati Bill, who is German, says, we're not talking about drafting the youth, but reinstating national service, which was in effect up until 2010, 2011, something like that. Basic stuff, really. Universal military service is the historic norm in Germany. If that's all it is, then fine. And maybe, Dati Bill, this article is misleading because I can't read German very well. So I don't know if this is talking about actual conscription. Kampfen, is that? I can't remember. It's not. No, that's not Krieg. So that's head. Kampfen head. I think so. So something for the Deutschland army. Maybe I'm not sure. So yeah, I'm not sure whether it is actually conscription. If we can find a better source for this, maybe I'll find a better source for this. Actually, see if we can just find one that's more neutral. There's actually nothing here about it. Conscription. There's nothing here recently. This does not seem like it was an April Fool's thing. But I guess it could have been. There's nothing elsewhere about it. Let's have a look on it. I believe I found this in Cabal. The article is 2 weeks old, is it? It's interesting. Description. There's one. Calls on young Germans to prepare for war with Russia. I'd like you to tell me what the source of this is, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, that's Zero Hedge's own article on it. No, this is from the article's from today, even if the article in the Stern magazine isn't. Stern magazine is calling for mass conscription of German youths. Okay, this is the same text as this site. I believe Remix, what they've done is they've remixed Zero Hedge's piece by just stealing it. Oh no, it says via Remix, so they've reposted from Remix. Never mind. So is there actually a second source for this anywhere? They are preparing the European public for the inevitable European troops to the ground in Ukraine.
I think we should drop this because if a story like this, all you can find on it is like tweets in English. This is probably just more of slop that we could ignore. Like, this is
Photo of the
probably
magazine.
not worth their time.
Photo of the magazine in person.
Okay, well.
So the magazine exists, but because I can't read German, I don't know if it's actually talking about conscription or if it is just military service, as Doughty Bill said. Which, to be fair, is not. It technically is conscription, but it's a much less severe form of it. Doughty Bill says, please note how all the Twitter commentary is English, Dutch, Hungarian, but not German. Yeah, that's a very good argument for me not to continue, and that's what I was thinking as well. Ty says, the English and Irish up north have been coming together to push out the invading force. Yeah, I did see you post about that, Di. I intend to talk about that today. You're welcome to come on when we talk about it as well, by the way. Yeah, I'm going to move on then, Doughty Bill, because, and everyone else, because I'm not seeing any reason to believe that this really does say what they say it says. So, what else do we have? I will go down the list here. Trump dials back Putin criticism, renews attacks on Zelensky for stalling minerals deal. Trump has been flipping back and forth, criticizing each side, threatening sanctions on Putin only very recently. On our last stream, I think it was yesterday, he was threatening sanctions on Putin. And now
the
today,
terror thing,
yeah, and now today a similar thing with Zelensky. Let's see what this is about.
Interesting. I've not heard this yet. This is new to me.
It was only on Sunday that President Trump declared he's very angry at Russian President Putin, statements which featured the threat of secondary tariffs on Moscow, but now the US leader is already dialing back his criticism, Bloomberg observes. Instead, he's once again focused on his ire on President Volodymyr Zelensky, warning of big problems if he doesn't sign the controversial minerals agreement and tries to renegotiate. Quote, I see he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal, and if he does that, he's got some problems. Big, big problems. Trump earlier told supporters aboard Air Force One, we made a deal on rare earth, and now he's saying, well, I won't renegotiate the deal. My impression of where this is going to go is that Zelensky is motivated by power politics to keep the war going, because as soon as it ends, he's out of office and might be on a stake. Putin wants, absolutely must, for his position of power, must get something out of it. He must either get territory or some concession or something to be worth all the lives that have been thrown into it that most perceive as his choice to throw into it, which, arguably it was. That's their positions, and they will not budge on those, I don't think. Zelensky knows his life depends on the war continuing at this point. Even if he was too dumb to realize that earlier, I think he probably knows that now, or the people controlling him know that. So it's in his interest to mess Trump around, but to never agree on anything. What happened in the White House, by the way, with the fucked up conversation, the dialogue went horribly wrong. I think that was a blunder. I think that was an accident. But I think the intention may have been to fuck Trump around and to never fully agree and to just keep batting it back and forth and keep Trump confused. That would be the plan. Hopefully it won't work. With Putin, I think he's playing hard to get. I think Putin is willing to make peace, but he must get something out of it. In order to not just be castigated at home. Rav, who lives in Russia, says Putin tried to hardball, Trump made a threat, Putin made some concessions behind the scenes. Zelensky saw Trump threatening Putin and tried to play hardball too. Trump got pissed off at him too.
The long and the short of it seems. Like from what we know on the surface and from what we know about the personalities of the men involved. And I use the term men loosely since Zelensky is included.
Yeah. I think, Ravelon, you're probably right. Putin making concessions behind the scenes is certainly possible because I think Putin is honestly willing to make peace, come to the table, possibly make concessions as long as he gets something out of it. And I think Trump understands that as well. But Putin obviously wouldn't want to publicly make concessions. So that makes a lot of sense. I do appreciate Di having a completely different conversation in chat. We will try and reunite the conversations in a minute, Di. I'll try and find the story that, in fact, it's the next story, Di. The next story on my list in order anyway. Quote, he wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. There you go, Trump. That's probably the right move, but it depends what NATO becomes. He says he understands that, so if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems, Trump said. Zelensky has signaled that Ukraine is positive about the deal, but has complained that its conditions are constantly changing. Not sure about that. That might be a lie. No, you're okay, Di. Trump has still kept up some pressure on Putin, however, saying Monday of the Russian leader, quote, I want to make sure that he follows through, and I think he will. He continued in Monday remarks from the Oval, quote, I don't want to go secondary tariffs on his oil, but I think, something I would do if I thought he wasn't doing the job. I think Putin can weather significant sanctions. There may be enough sanctions that the US can put on Putin that he couldn't weather, but it would take a while. However, Zelensky can't. So that might be a lot more effective. All the weekend criticisms of Putin appear to arise from the Russian president's comments late last week, declaring that Zelensky's legitimacy could be fixed by a UN transition process guiding Ukraine to new elections. Only then would Moscow negotiate an end to the war, Putin stipulated. So that does sound like Putin playing hardball. Now, that's not an unreasonable thing to ask. Ukraine's supposed to be a democratic country. The idea that, have to have a democratic election. It may even be better for Trump to do that because Zelensky's not cooperating, but the next guy might, because the next guy is not going to be blamed for the entire war. But if Trump demands this, Ukraine will never agree. Unless they oust Zelensky, which at this point might be possible.
It's totally possible.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of people in Ukraine that hate Zelensky and hate what's happened, and they feel like that this could have been ended long ago with much less death if there wasn't a psycho anti-white Jew getting them all killed.
Good night, 8-Bit. It obviously reports vary and we can't know for sure, but I saw one source say that the approval rating of Zelensky in Ukraine is, see if you can guess, he is
11%.
4%.
Wow. I thought it would be at least around 10 or 11. Jeez.
Now, I have no idea how valid that source is, and we can't really because it's blanketed authoritarian state at this point.
It's also hard to believe polls anyway.
Yes, especially those from Poland. Zelensky approval rating. Let's just see if we can find anything from this. Okay, so from The Economist, which is probably an establishment source, so they're likely to be lying about it. Telegraph. And by the way, if whatever we read from these sources, don't doubt they could just be completely lying. Is Zelensky a disliked dictator or a popular hero? What are the results? Polls Trump would kill for. Oh, right. I see. So how soon do you think presidential parliamentary election will be held in Ukraine? Most people are saying not until the war formally ends. I really doubt this. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Volodymyr Zelensky is doing his job as president? 28%, or more than that actually, 35% highly approve, all the way up to 75% approval rating in total. I doubt it.
I doubt that too.
Yeah. 74% of the country favor fighting on even without American support. I fucking doubt it. It's
Continue on for what?
Yeah,
Continue on for 8 weeks until they all get killed?
Yeah. It's very rare for the people of a country, to, at least in the last 100 years, to actually believe in a war, to want fighting to continue, especially a defensive war.
Because remember, even with all of the Turbo America super crazy propaganda coming out of World War II, most people didn't like the Korean War and didn't want to be stuck in it. And then the next one was a lengthy engagement that led to Vietnam, and everyone hated that, and that had miserable approval. And that was in the heyday of absolutely totalitarian Turbo America propaganda. And the war then only had like 30% approval of the populace.
The people of the US didn't want to get involved in World War I or II. I
know. It just goes to show you that what the people want doesn't really matter.
Not enough.
Not enough, sadly.
This is plausible, maybe, but I think very highly likely not true. Either way, I don't know if the 4% thing is accurate. It might not be either. Quattro, of course, says because everyone who had a problem with how things were going under him either fled or died. That's also very possible.
That's
yes,
possible.
Sampling bias of a kind. Yeah, so I acknowledge this source. I disbelieve it on common sense grounds, and we don't know what's true, but it could be as low as 4%. I could believe that being true.
The next few years are definitely going to be very interesting. We will get to see exactly what the Trump regime seems to want to do and what it can do. And like I've always said, I am hopeful but highly skeptical that Trump, MAGA, Doge, etc., are actually going to make things much better for the long term. I am highly skeptical but hopeful that they do.
Fair enough. Pug, Ginger knows. All right. We are now talking about the Northern Irish story. Breaking. People in Northern Ireland are putting up warning posters. Quote, anyone facilitating the settlement of Muslims or illegals in our area will be held responsible. We are watching. Brits have had enough, they say.
Based.
Let me just go ahead and chat. Do not crime. And the word that Years has just used is one of a deeply inflammatory nature, and I certainly would never be accountable legally for saying it myself. But yes. The sign says, take notice. Anyone facilitating the settlement of Muslims or illegals in our areas will be held responsible. We are watching. It's dark. And I hate that we, like, the side I agree with has felt they have to resort to this, but it is getting easily bad enough that this kind of reaction is understandable. Do not crime. Especially from somewhere that has had to deal with, or that has, regardless of blame, has dealt with a lot of conflict in the recent past as well.
I think any action that we take to defend our people and our children's future is 100% morally justified.
The
It's a bit
question...
more than that. It's a bit more than that, though, because a lot of Irish people and British people up there have been actually quite, they've been becoming more unified in pushing out the invading force that is coming in, which is a lot of the time the Muslim religion and the crime from a lot of these people that don't see you as human, because in Muslim they literally are allowed to treat you like subhuman. It is encouraged. Like, this is what they are letting in.
I will disagree only on a technicality. Years, not always moral, but probably always ethical, depending on exactly how you do it. Because individual acts can be immoral, but it's ultimately for the good of the country, and that's for the good of all the people in it. So
perhaps
ethical,
that's what I meant. But to me, when, like, we're past the Huns are in the gate, right? Like, we're already past that.
Yeah.
Like, and especially in the UK, especially in Ireland, and in several places in the United States, and in Canada,
Listen,
and I could go on and on.
Yes, it's Lent, and all they're talking about is Ramadan and all these other fucking everything else. But
These people have addresses and families die, and I know that the Irish are good at what I'm suggesting. Make it so.
Let me just, there we go. What I would prefer, I know it's idealistic, is an ethical result, i.e. we win, we save our countries, without too much immorality in so doing, the minimum amount. Now, that's an ideal. I'm not saying that that's the only option. I'm not saying that either we do that or we die, and those are the only two valid options. Survival does come first. But I hope that we don't become darker than we need to.
People are enacting violence of a genocidal level upon us. And I think that makes the actions we take against them morally justified, even if in a different time and in a different situation, those actions you and I both, Uzulu, would consider immoral.
Understandable.
Like, look at, like, the traitorous actions like we're dealing with here. Like, look at this.
All right. Kerry is a region of, I guess, Northern Ireland, or is it Southern Ireland? I'm not sure. Michael Healy-Rae visits local mosque and says Muslims will be the fabric of County Kerry. Healy-Rae makes millions annually hosting migrants in his properties. Irish politicians are fundamentally altering Irish demographics and cursing future generations.
Business people, they will be the employers, they will be the employees, they will be the fabric of this town and of this county. And I appreciate that very much.
Why?
Yeah, why? The
Like,
only thing I can
why-
think of is either this guy is not even Boomer. He's older than Boomer, I think. How much has he been paid? Where is the ESG fucking IV drip coming from?
Wait, listen.
You want me to listen to it? Okay.
Hadn't made the decision to come here and rear your families here, we would have been denied the right of having those children in this county.
Di, why does he speak in that really weird way? Why can't he speak normal?
I don't know, man.
Well, let's hear it out. Let's hear it.
That is so important because the more people that we can have, the better. And they're very nice and very respectful, and I believe they will play an integral part of our community in the years and years ahead when none of us adults will be there anymore. We are delighted that the mosque here is going so well. It is a credit to each and every one of you and your families who worked so hard and who saved up money, because it couldn't be here only for work and for money. And you did that yourselves. We were glad to support you and do our work in helping you with it, but it was down to yourselves and nobody else. And it was your hours of work and putting your money together that helped. And it is a beautiful building, and it is a building for the future.
This guy sounds excited about
this
replacing the
archetype-
Irish and giving away the country to Muslims.
This archetype could have been-
massive mosque, and they're fucking proud that they're destroying everything that we are.
This tripe could have been expressed in 3 sentences and all of them would have been lies.
Is it a Jew?
Like, I'm sorry, I'm just about to try and find. I'm sorry, but my immediate thought was he looks kind of Jewish, and he does look kind of Jewish. Do we get an early life these days, or have they removed it? They have removed it.
It's usually near the top.
Family life.
Look at family life.
His mother, born in Wilmington, Delaware, US, grew up in New York City. Definitely possible. He has 5 children, 2 of whom were found guilty and convicted of assault charges in 2019. That's interesting. Okay, so it doesn't say. His mother,
Just
Julie
search his
Healy.
name and is he a Jew? See what comes up.
He says, I believe in my God.
That's a bad sign.
Interesting. Michael Healy Ray, outraged as humanists call for no religion preference on census. Maybe this is, the Irish Independent is not going to let me read this unless I do this. Archive it, in which case it probably will. Oh, it's never been archived before. That's fantastic. CEO of the Humanist Association of Ireland, Gillian Brennan, is calling people to tick the no religion box on their census form if that is their preference on April 3rd.
Yeah, because they were so pissed last census that people put down they were still Roman Catholic in this country. They were so angry about it.
This is from a few years ago, so not that relevant anymore, the specific story. But however, Deputy Michael Healy Ray rejects this, calling it an outrage that someone should campaign for people to declare themselves as having no religion in what is predominantly a Catholic country. He had the right opinion on that story by the sounds of it, because, yeah, despite being an atheist myself, answer honestly, for goodness sake. Unless you have some good reason not to, if you think you're going to be tracked.
The way that man spoke about it was almost like he was hungry and yearning for the people of Ireland to be replaced by Muslims. I have even if that man really does believe that, and he's Irish, he is absolutely sick and riddled through with anti-whiteism. But if he's not, he's just a typical Jew in government.
Yeah, no, but this is not unique to him. This is happening everywhere. Like England is fucked completely in this regard as well. Like with the massive mosques they're building and everything, it's just continuing to grow, which is why I'm saying like this needs to be stopped immediately. And nobody's talking about like the genocide in Africa happening to the Catholic bishops and everything, and how the church is like ostracizing all of the fucking priests. Like shit's happening.
This reminds me of a meme I made a long time ago. Put it in live chat.
It's not the same person.
I mean, the Pope literally has like actively said, like, no, we're pushing the world order, the new world order. We are for this.
There's no indication anywhere that I can find that he's Jewish. He looks a bit Jewish, but he might not be.
But he's old and from New York, so
the thing is, it's going to be very hard to find a lot of information on some older people's background, especially in Ireland. A lot of things were destroyed, so.
Either way, I find it hard to imagine what insanity possesses a man to sit there and reel off this twaddle.
Read the comments.
Well, I will in a sec, but to reel off this twaddle, which doesn't make any sense in and of itself and just sounds like, it doesn't inherently sound genocidal, but with the obvious context it is, it's, there are many motivations that can lead to someone doing this. Simply being paid off might be enough, but that's a bit too obvious. I have been thinking that there was that report from 2000 about ethnic replacement across Europe, and it was specifically for the reason of otherwise boomers won't get their pensions when they get to old age. And the thing is, if that was their motive, if any of them were truly motivated by just that, they wouldn't go and sit among these people that they must know are only there to replace the GDP. There's other things involved as well. And yes, maybe this guy is a massive ideologue for this, but he's also apparently a Catholic ideologue. So it seems contradictory.
I don't know if he's Catholic. There's a lot of suicidal empathy, and the way he's like, oh yeah, my God, and then how he's speaking to these Muslims and everything of just like, I get the sense he thinks he's doing them such a favor, and that he's really hoping that this is going to go on, and like just I don't know, in a completely different world almost to what's going around, like happening around him.
But the language he used, the verbiage he used, made it sound like the Irish are going extinct. And the country is being given to the Muslims.
Essentially, that's essentially what he's doing. Like in his own virtuous mindset, this is the right thing to do.
Di, for goodness sake.
Breathe.
Yeah, the comments aren't giving much of an answer as to why he's doing this, but it's common enough now that
disgusting traitor. Yeah, there's like I said, this is what a fucking traitor is. This is why they burn in the lowest pits of hell.
Yeah, I mean, this guy deserves brutal vigilante justice, public execution, 100%.
Well, I'm glad I got that do not crime display up in time. Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, at what point are these actions justified, Usulu? I mean, come on. Like, we've been trying to vote our way out of this forever. It doesn't work.
Yes,
We're trying to pressure people, and it doesn't work.
You'll notice I'm not disagreeing.
Okay. Moving on then.
But I cannot possibly condone anything that might be considered illegal in my country. To condone. I could not possibly say that on stream.
Right.
Di, is there anything else you want to talk about on this topic? Yes,
Get
of course.
Out.
Anything on this topic you want to talk about, Di? Otherwise, I shall move on. We have a few stories left that we can do.
Ban halal slaughter.
Yes.
Ban halal slaughter everywhere.
It should never have been allowed.
They've said it themselves. If it's stopped, they're fucking leaving. Get them out.
Which
Ban halal slaughter.
Probably isn't true that they would, but some of them might, or they might be incentivized to do so. So yes, halal is wrong in and of itself.
Where are the people that care about animals? Where are you? You always scream to the high heavens about everything else. Like, look at the Just Stop Oil fucking protesters. What, like getting rid of the straws, the paper fucking straws that we have to deal with, like all this shit. And yet when real slaughter, like horrendous things that is being done to these animals is happening, you just turn a blind eye. Halal slaughter should have never been allowed. Ever, ever, ever.
Halal is torturous.
Circumcision.
Yes. Halal is torturous. It's completely unnecessary. It's only
Kosher
done
as
to
well.
satiate Muslims.
Yes.
They should be banned everywhere.
Anything that gives undue stress, undue pain, undue suffering to an animal intentionally, no. We're not bug people.
No. Ronald, I suspect if I knew more about it, I'd be willing to agree with you. I don't know as much about kosher, but I do know halal is evil. As Ronald says,
I refuse to live that way.
Yes. It should be banned not only from happening in all civilized countries, but also from being imported to all civilized countries. Absolutely, yes. If that happened, incidentally, if that happened, Muslims probably couldn't exist in Europe. Or if they did, they'd have to like do it illegally, slaughter their animals illegally. Now, there are provisions in Islam which allow you to disobey certain parts of the faith in order to win or trick the enemy.
They carry the meat in these fucking dirty vans. Like if they can't legally do it, and even then they do. It's just so fucking evil.
It's very sad because push is coming to shove, and our governments and corporations and rich people, they just don't have our backs. They are totally fine with every aspect of the white race being annihilated. They're just A-okay with it, and many of them celebrate it. It's sick. It's absolutely sick and wrong what's being done to us.
Chat saying kosher is basically the same. Yeah, to whatever degree it's the same, it shouldn't be allowed either.
Banning fucking ninja stars. We should do that. Instead of banning everything ninja. I don't know if you've been hearing about that, Uzla.
Yeah. I saw something about
the fucking swords, the samurai swords or whatever that they're trying to ban now or have banned. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to fix the problem.
Oh yeah. That'll fix it. I mean, there was that one white guy who used a ninja sword I think he killed someone. I can't remember that. We looked into it a few years ago. Actually, was he white? I can't remember. I think he was. He was nuts anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the sword magically, teleported into the person and killed them on its own.
I can't remember the details of that, actually. He might have actually slashed someone. I can't remember.
Doesn't matter what you do. People can take a branch off a tree and refine it into this thing known as a shillelagh and bash someone's head in. Or they could simply pick a rock up off the ground. You're not going to fix the problem by banning everything.
Indeed. Yep. I don't think we have anything to debate on any of this, to be honest. Yeah. Speaking of the Northern Ireland sort of situation coming together, of the people coming together, can we find the meme chat which is like, you and I are enemies? Yes. And then they see the visage of the foreigner. You and I are perhaps not so different as we thought. Yes.
Yeah. It's literally ironically happening though.
That's a good meme.
The unfortunate reality is when you're faced with just that pure savagery, like what they do to their women, like the surgeries that they fucking just chop the vagina off in some cases, like crazy horrendous things that they do. How they treat their animals. The best way to see a human being and how they are is how they treat their animals, like the cattle that they rear. Very, very.
I treat my domestic animal very well.
This is ancient knowledge, The reason
Ghost,
why we have these civilizations.
Ghost, I believe the Di was looking for a different word. I believe Di was having trouble finding the clitoris. Apparently you said chop off the vagina. So that's not quite how female circumcision works, but I know what you mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You get me.
Yes, I do get you. So yes, a meme for you, Di.
It's disgusting. We shouldn't have to live with desert savages. We don't belong together.
So true, yeah. Oh, build the wall.
Yep.
Build the wall.
Yep.
We have to, man.
Oh, Ronald wants to make it clear that... Wait, hold on. Did you post this, Ronald? Yeah, Ronald posted this. Di, I believe Ronald posted this as an act of serenade to try and win your heart.
Oh. How sweet.
There you go, Ronald. Ronald will never forget this compliment. All right. Let's go to what other stories we have. Oh yeah, good news, chat. There's now a better N. Here it is. Do you see it? They changed their N. This is the solution to all our problems.
They turned it into the Netflix N?
Yeah, I love it whenever you're watching something, just N just appears on the screen.
It's great, isn't it?
It's very good. I don't actually use Netflix, but it's mostly on things that I've legally downloaded. Yeah, so chat, can we have an N in chat for the modified N on the 7-Eleven logo?
Of course.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say on this. It's just an excuse to get you guys to say N. All right. Let's do a few more stories fairly quickly. Doug Burgum says...
before, now it's N.
Okay. So, oh, yeah. I remember that. Says, certainly have room for Trump on Mount Rushmore. What do you reckon? Yay or nay?
Ugh.
Fucking do it.
Hey, the guests might disagree on this one. Go, argue, fight.
They should obliterate Abraham Lincoln and make it Trump. No. They should obliterate Abraham Lincoln and make it Robert E. Lee.
That's black speak. We don't destroy history. No. I refuse to do that. Nope. Regardless of what you believe or what you think and how, I don't think you should get rid of history, regardless of what it means.
Surprisingly balanced and considerate position from Di. I have to lean on agreeing with that, yes.
Lincoln was a piece of shit.
No, but like a lot of people are pieces of shit, man. You know, they managed to change a lot of stuff.
Yes, I think if it were a matter of what is literally, without any other consideration, the best or most right thing to do, maybe you're right. But the consideration is for future as well. If we do that, it justifies them doing something else. Now, they've already done it, but that's because we're in very uncivilized times. If we're in more civilized times and neither side destroys the other's history, it's stable. That's the time we want to head towards.
Now, if they're a depiction of a demon,
destroying history to knock down a monument of basically
if they were
the
depicting
OG
a
American
demon,
communist, I don't have a problem with that.
If they're depicting a demon, it's a bit different, I think. But
Abraham Lincoln is a demon. Communists aren't people.
But you can't. But like the history there, you can't.
The history's still
ignore
there.
it.
I just don't think we should have a monument to that shitbag. His actions were extremely anti-American.
Well, I get that. You know, you had him, and you know you're where you're at currently because, if not in part, to his actions to some degree, right?
Like, objectively, he was a tyrant and acted anti-Americanly. But I'm a proud Southerner, so I have a right to hate that man and want to destroy every effigy of him.
But I understand. But at the same time, it's good to remember your mistakes and to know what not to do, so you don't repeat
the mistake of that asshole.
Yeah, and having a monument like that can be a good reminder to people.
Ugh, I don't agree with that.
I'm just saying it's one thing. Like actually,
to Stalin to hate Stalinist Russia. I'm not going to forget that.
But if it's already
what about
there,
100 years? But what about 100 years? when the TikTokers are looking up and they're like, I wonder what that person is over there. What did he do? The retards in the future.
Like, I don't think we should build monuments to evil, awful things.
We're not talking about building one. We would disagree on building a new one, I think. But one that already exists and is so well known and has been there for a long time. I too have doubts about just chiseling out because we have even just reasons not to like what it's remembering.
You could take pictures of it, put it in a history book. I don't care about that. I don't think that it's good to have monuments erected to things that are counter to who you and your people are. I think that's bad. I don't think that's good at all. It doesn't matter if it's part of history or not.
Ronald has a different perspective. Ronald says, nuke Mount Rushmore. It's a native holy site.
Very good. He wins.
I don't know. The way there's been a lot of things, like specifically the Catholic Church decided not to destroy, even though it went against their very like core to keep it going. Like deities that were worshipped, old relics that they kept intact, even though it went against everything, every fiber of them to keep them there. They still guard them.
I don't know about
history.
weird Catholic hoobajube and superstitions. I don't know about that. But what I do know about is the United States.
It's not superstitions. It's them actually holding on to these artifacts that has been there for thousands of years. Like, they are the keepers of these things.
Well, this isn't an artifact. It's a monument. I'm not saying that we should erase him from history and not talk about Abraham Lincoln and what happened. We should very much respect and care about what actually happened and history. But we shouldn't make monuments to people who are directly counter to what your people are and what your country is supposed to be. I just don't see a problem with tearing down a monument to somebody like that.
Spray painting tyrant on his forehead and leaving it there, do not crime, might achieve the same effect year after year.
That would be acceptable if you wanted to carve that in and say, like carve a big old dick on his head and be like, ha ha, or something like that. Like, that's fine.
Honestly, this argument, I hate to be so in the middle, but this is one of those difficult problems that does not have a obviously correct answer. Both sides have valid points. You got to decide case by case.
I dislike anything that makes me feel like I am like a Muslim and a third worlder.
Yeah.
And I see so many of them defacing and destroying everything around them. And I just want to be counter to that in every fucking way possible. They are savages. To me, it is a savage viewpoint to do that. While I understand the concern, preservation is very important to history, to people. To destroy it, I just disagree inherently.
Okay, that's fine. I understand your take. I just disagree with it. That's all. I'm not saying you're dumb.
I know. I just wanted to make it clear.
Yeah, that's cool. And I, of course, have already stated why I feel it is justified. And it's not because of feelings. It's because of what is right and what I think should be enshrined in a monument. Like, I would not agree with like trying to torch it and remove stuff from history. I think that's wrong. That's because then you're making yourself blind and dumb to a problem that could come back. Then there's nothing to teach from. So I understand your element in that argument. I just disagree with it.
Good debate, though. I'm not sure what I'd do in this situation. And when something like that, and sometimes as I run a community, and I'm sure some of you guys have other experiences that are similar, but sometimes I do have to make decisions that affect the lives of others. And usually the correct answer for a leader like that is to tend towards inaction or to tend towards the consent of the people. In this case, I expected the people were asked, they would say no. And the inaction is to leave it as it is. And I definitely agree with Di on a mere aesthetic basis that we're not savages who destroy history, even if we don't like it. But to make some sort of clear statement that his actions are those of a tyrant, to put that somewhere near it, I don't think that would be that bad, but it is unfortunately the opinion of not the majority, or at least of not everyone. So it's hard to say, like, why would that remain? Well, possibly. I don't know exactly where Idaho is. Is Idaho one of the southern states?
No, Idaho is in the northwest.
It is in Idaho, right? Mount Rushmore?
No, I don't think so. I think it's in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Let me look that up.
Now I ask a
South
question
Dakota, apparently.
to both of you.
Sorry, I don't know.
Oh,
why I thought it
South
was like
Dakota.
that.
That's it. It's one of those empty states where nothing is.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a southern state. So slightly less of an argument there. If it was in the South, then yeah, you have much more of an argument there. Go on, Di.
Oh, no. So there was this thing that happened, I believe it was either in New Zealand or Australia recently, where this archaeology department was forced to put a lot of these old relics and like stones, essentially, with a lot of like skulls, I believe, as well, a lot of skulls and DNA evidence of like old tribes and things they were gleaming from. They were forced to basically rebury it because a lot of the people were like, no, you shouldn't use our bodies as for scientific purposes, even though these are like tens of thousands year old, right?
Mhm.
But they're trying to claim that is their tribe, and they won't allow them to test it to see if that is true. And the court forced them to bury them so that they wouldn't even get those answers. And this is what I mean, where it's like there's things where I agree with you, Yiz, on like, oh, certain things shouldn't be depicted, I think, because it's just inherently evil. And then them intentionally using rules for that thing and using it to destroy something else or hide away something else. And they do that all the time.
Mm-hmm. They certainly do. You're correct.
That's another reason why it's just not a good idea, I think.
All right.
Right. Good debate either way. Let's read the actual article because it's not about Lincoln. It's about Trump's face being added. Maybe a new debate on that one.
They should do it.
I mean, I can't think of another candidate who would make sense for it at the moment.
If
But
the
if you're
people
going
voted, listen, do a referendum. Let the people vote. Do they want Trump up there? And if they say yes, put him up there. Make it the new tradition.
The possibility of people voting against it merely due to, I mean, it's basically a popularity poll. So Obama would have been on there if that was the case, and Trump wouldn't. So hard to say. Hard to say whether that should just be a referendum. Some of shouldn't be presented in a manner which encourages veneration, commemorating the past and not against. Yeah, hard to do that here. Hard to change that, but I can agree with that in principle. Okay, so Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said that he certainly believes there is room for President Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore. Burgum spoke with Lara Trump, Trump's daughter-in-law and Fox News host, as Trump signed an executive order that gave the Interior Department Secretary the power to determine if monuments, memorials, or statues removed during President Joe Biden's administration give a false reading of American history. Lara Trump asked Burgum, the Department of Interior is in charge of the National Park Service. The National Park Service is in charge of Mount Rushmore. A lot of people wonder, will we ever see President Trump's face on Mount Rushmore? What do you think? They certainly have room for it there, Burgum said. So that's all. He's just saying that technically there is room, not that it's going to happen. He added that there will be fireworks and other celebrations around July 4th, both at Mount Rushmore and across the country to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country's founding in 2026. Not the first time the idea of placing Trump alongside the former presidents on Mount Rushmore has been introduced. Anna Paulina Luna introduced legislation that would add Trump to Mount Rushmore after he started his second term in office. Not the only way Republicans have sought to honor the 47th president, establish Trump's birthday and Flag Day as a public holiday. There you go. So not a lot to this, just a government official said theoretically it could be done. So that's about it. But what do you think? Is there a just way to determine this? Or is it just a matter of, well, if a president has an ego big enough, they're allowed? Is that all it should be? Because referendum would produce results of mere popularity.
Referendums are gay anyway. I don't care.
Not always.
No, but, they definitely showed in Ireland recently why you should have them.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is I don't think referendums matter. I think that if someone is going to have their face put on a big national monument like this, it has to do with things that regular people don't have any say in. I think referendums are largely pointless, and the people with power do what they want anyway.
Well, I'd have to disagree.
I will disagree to an extent. Yes, there is some truth to that, but largely disagree.
It
depends.
The referendum,
again, on the
in Ireland is what saved the women and the idea of family being completely changed in our constitution. They claimed the papers went around and said it was going to be an 80% yes vote of change of this thing. And then when the referendum happened, it was 80% no, and people were absolutely furious. And eventually it stopped them from changing that legislation, the constitution itself. So I don't agree that it is useless, at least in certain countries it can be.
I was speaking starkly. I think most of the time it doesn't matter, but I'm glad that it mattered in that case. That's a good thing. The
degree it matters is exactly the degree that our opponent need to maintain the appearance of legitimacy. There is some variation because they can sometimes maintain that while defying a referendum, but that would be much rarer. So a referendum is a statement that you are meant to do this. If they do the opposite, it decreases their appearance of legitimacy. And it may seem like that's not a factor, that nothing could ever stop it, but that's only because they're managing it so carefully. If it gets bad enough, they probably are aware that enough people would rise up, or they'd be assassinated, or there'd be such a change in the voting, if that's even valid in some places, that they wouldn't be able to compete anymore.
Such a disparity in the referendum votes and polling numbers is also quite telling, and can scare a lot of people, as it should, because there's something very wrong going on there. If the people are being very clear in their voting that there's an issue, and then the press is saying the complete opposite.
Yeah.
At least to me, it informs the populace as much as it can that, hey, you should pay attention. Something odd is going on here.
And from my experience, when referendums and things don't go the way that the regime wants and that people with power want, they just wait a little while and do it again. Or that
is definitely the tactic they do. Especially, I don't know if you are aware of the water charges they tried bringing in here, and there was a massive pushback years ago. Fucking bombs placed, everything. People were not getting, because we were already paying for water through a road tax, so they were basically trying to bring in another charge. That people were already paying, and they still, just recently, this fucking bitch politician tried to bring it back again, being like, hey, maybe we should try and look at those water charges again, guys. They always fucking do it.
But it does demonstrate that
people forget.
The referendum was an effective prevention, even if eventually they try again. They need to, in some cases, of course,
new
it depends
voting blocks every year. That's why.
Well, maybe. But they need to actually get past the stage of the referendum in some cases for it to be legitimate. But as some of us is implying with Brexit, for example, the referendum was to leave the EU, and that has technically happened. Not properly, it hasn't been taken advantage of, but just because the referendum says do this doesn't mean it'll be done with gusto or enthusiasm or properly, but it was technically done. The establishment didn't want it, at least I don't think so, and yet it happened, technically. I can't remember if Trudeau was recalled, and I think the recall of Newsom failed. I'm not sure about that. Good night, Ghost. Ghost's suggestion earlier, he says, I like Dai's suggestion that every time a president is elected, we carve Trump's face into a mountain.
Yeah.
Well, Decrow, as I said, not properly. But leaving the EU never guaranteed that our legislation would differ from theirs. It can stay the same. In many ways, it probably should. But we have the option. Now, if we get good politicians in office, or just good enough, then we have the option. We didn't have the option before.
I mean, none of it's going to matter.
It's a shame you're being run by Muslims.
I was going to say, unless you can somehow stop being overrun by non-whites from Muslim countries and India, then nothing really matters anyway. So,
yeah.
I love how that's the one thing me and you are fully united on.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, that's true everywhere. That's the premise of the culture war.
Yeah, no, it's awful. I don't care about left versus right or monarchy versus democracy or what. I just care about
white is right, man.
Not just that. No, I care about stopping the evil, stopping the corruption, and sending people who don't belong in our countries back, and having leaders who actually care about the people who these countries are supposed to be for. That's what I care about.
I want to stop funding the savages. That'd be great.
Or
wars that we don't want to be involved in.
John Wick says Newsom's recall was rigged. It very well might have been. I could believe it. Decra says, I'm of the opinion that you either did it correctly or you simply didn't do it. Yes, but my point was only that the referendum did make them do something they didn't want to do, same as in Ireland. So they do something. They're not as useful as they should be, but that's because our enemies are corrupt. So they do something. Let's continue, though. Trump is plotting the biggest tax rise in global history. Now, you'll never believe this, but I think there might be a little bit of bias in this story. Because they're talking about tariffs, not taxes, which are not quite the same thing. The burden for paying the bulk of the president's Liberation Day tariffs will fall on consumers, it says, potentially at some $600 billion a year. Now, that's not necessarily true, and even if it is, it's only temporarily, because the idea of tariffs is you're supposed to be doing business here. Why aren't you? You have to pay a premium. Now, if the companies being tariffed pass that bill onto the consumers, then yes, the consumers will pay more, but that's their choice whether to pass it onto the consumers or not. And if, it's 4 years, Trump's term, they have to believe that, well, after that, is this going to continue? And that's honestly quite a big gamble for a company to make. You completely retool your global dispersion on the basis of Trump. This particular president has a hardline stance on making everything in the US. Well, that's a big commitment to make. But companies that are doing it aren't suffering this problem. Night-night, honey. So it's only the ones that... Yiz says good night. She heard you.
Good
so
night
it's only...
as well.
Di also said good night. I think she heard that too. So it's only the companies that are not operating in the US that are at risk for this. Now, tariffs, it's already been known that they do this. You're not taxing the other nation, you're taxing your own nation. But you have the power to do that. You don't have to go abroad and enforce laws where you don't have jurisdiction. You can do it at home. But you're not generally taxing the consumer directly like normal taxes. You're taxing specifically companies that are operating in a way that isn't right. So it's a risky business. It's not completely without downside, tariffs, but the US has the power to do it. And a lot of this money won't hit the consumer, probably. And even if it does, again, as I say, it's likely to be temporary. And calling it a tax rise isn't really fair. It may very well be that Trump accompanies this with a concomitant tax reduction, thank you, which I wouldn't be surprised by. We'll see. This is from The Telegraph. The article says, we might think of him as a tax cutter, an enemy of big government, as an instinctive ally of business and consumers. And in the first term, he certainly was. And yet, as his second term takes shape, President Trump is morphing into something very different, they say. Now, Trump did tariffs in the first term as well. Maybe they're bigger now, but frankly, they need to be. What he's doing here is reorganizing the world's economy, which is desperately needed and in the direction that he's doing it as well. They say the final details of Liberation Day on Wednesday will still have to be finalized, but the White House appears to be planning steep new tariffs imposed on all of the US's trading partners. On Fox News, Peter Navarro, one of the key backers of the tariff policy, suggested that levies on auto imports should raise $100 billion a year for the federal government. More significantly, he estimated that across the board, tariffs would collect $600 billion annually. Now, that's what they're going to collect. That is usually going to be from businesses that are operating in the US, but they're not all US businesses either. Some of them are foreign businesses that are operating in the US. The interesting thing about that is that the government getting that money does not mean the government it'll just go somewhere. I think the journalist here and many others may be just used to the government, once they're having money, it just goes somewhere. It just goes to a black box somewhere. Because we saw the spending. It was ridiculous. That seems to have been reduced or cut significantly now. And either way, that's the policy. We'll see what they do, see if they waste it. But what they might very well do, if Trump is the kind of responsible leader that I think he is they will either disperse that money in some way to the people, or more likely just use it to cut the national debt. And cutting the national debt does put money back in the pockets of people long term. And that is desperately needed for the US economy.
Assuming we continue to have better and better leadership.
Indeed, it's going to take a long time.
Which I am hopeful for, but skeptical that will happen because, I've been at this game long enough to be thoroughly blackpilled, but I try to have some hope.
No, understandable concern. It will take time. It'll take a lot longer than Trump has. I think my suspicion is that for a few runs, a few presidents, they'll be much better. But you never know. But yes, as I said, assuming even some of that goes towards reducing the US national debt, that'll be a huge help. 600 billion annually. The national debt is something like 31 trillion, something like that. That would make a huge difference. Not that it's likely that all of it's going that way, but if the government is smaller, that money doesn't need to go to anything government anyway. A lot of this is based on trusting that Trump and his people will do what they say they're doing, but so far they have. Economists and trade experts will no doubt argue that about the precise sum that might be raised. No American government has imposed tariffs on this scale in more than a century. Trump is very big on tariffs. I think it makes sense the way he's doing it. Now if he's imposing it on all the US trading partners, that's a little bit more questionable. Some don't necessarily deserve it, but probably most do. I think most have been taking advantage of the US.
He did a speech recently where he's like, he's going to be very kind. Like he knows that he's the world, like they're essentially the world's piggy bank and they need to be careful and all that. Like he seems well aware of the position, at least, in that regard. Like he's not just going, he might be a bit more careful than we realize with what he's cutting, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see.
Ronald says, but it's not imposed on Israel. Yeah, probably not. We'll see. Some of the burden might be absorbed by foreign companies. They say, well done for admitting that. State-backed Chinese companies, for example, might choose to live with the levies, given that they are more interested in increasing market share than making money. Sort of, but China can only support that for so long. In other cases, production might shift from Stuttgart to San Francisco or Lyon to Louisville, turning imports into domestic products. That's great. This paragraph lays out why he's doing it. They say, but far more likely, however, is that much of the increased cost will be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Either they will be forced to pay more for imported goods, or prices may rise in general because US companies have less of an incentive to improve productivity thanks to the protections afforded by that tariff wall. There's some truth to that, but as I said, even if that happens temporarily, it will introduce a massive gradient for competition such that anyone making goods in the US domestically will have a significant advantage over international companies. This article is assuming that the state of the market is immovable and that the current situation is just all it will ever be. Now, maybe it says it later, because he's not saying that, if they rise, as he's describing here, it's possible. He's not saying that they won't then fall due to other factors, but what Trump is doing here is not every policy decision that you make is good in the short term. And this, I think, may be one of them. But the state of the world economy requires this kind of reorganization. Creating a gradient such that small business in the US can compete with massive international conglomerates, especially foreign ones. That's a very good thing for the US economy and for the world in general, I think. So he says, and if tariffs do raise $600 billion annually, that is no small sum of money, even for an enormous economy like the US. For context, the US government raises $4.9 trillion a year in tax revenue, so if Navarro is right, the tariffs will add a little under 15% to that total. It would be more than the $424 billion the government raises from corporate taxes annually. Tariffs would be turned into the third largest source of government revenue after federal income taxes, which account for just over 50% of the total, and social security or payroll taxes, which account for around 30%. Most of those taxes could probably be removed, at least gradually. The government should be small enough, in the US specifically, possibly elsewhere as well, that the least intrusive taxes should be able to pay for it. That's the design of the US. That's what they should stick to. So $4.9 trillion a year in tax revenue. Federal income taxes account for 50% of the total, which is a lot. And social security or payroll taxes, which account for around 30%. So yeah, that is a lot. It'd be difficult to make that up with other sources. But the government is probably 80% bigger than it needs to be in the US. Or at least a lot bigger than it used to be. They say, in effect, it would be the largest tax rise any president has ever imposed and to trigger a huge shift in how the federal government raises money. I'm not happy about the dishonest way that they presented the title of this article, because it's not taxes. They don't know it's going to be passed on to the consumer. But the actual point they're making
even
true.
if the cost was passed on, that's still not a tax.
Yeah.
That's just economic change because of tariffs. That's not a tax.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. He could be, perhaps, to being generous, perhaps the word tax in the title is being used expressively.
Very generous, indeed. Yes. I won't continue because I think we get the point. And it's economic, it's quite dry anyway, but this could happen. It could hurt Americans in some ways. But I think you will quickly see the market readjust. You'll quickly see prices drop down again. You may not see any of it pass on to the consumer because it's just companies that do that know that they're encouraging the market to replace them. So they may actually take on the loss.
Yeah, as much as I don't really like or trust Zion Don, he is pretty smart when it comes to making America's economy better. But that doesn't mean that it will be better for us regular poor people. It means it will be better for business owners and upper middle class and people who have money in the game. That's usually how it goes when America's economy does well. It's rare that without Federal Reserve and quantitative easing shenanigans, everyone does well at the same time in a short bubble. If things are going to genuinely get better economically in America, most of us regular and poor people are going to struggle as things balance out. And I know that that's going to make a lot of people unhappy, but Trump is right, if he's being honest, that this needs to be done, even if we're all going to have to tighten our belts and suffer through this. We know wealthy people like him certainly won't, but it is the right thing to do if this is genuine and if this keeps up and it's maintained long-term by people who actually do have the goal of making America economically more independent and self-balancing instead of being relying on the quote-unquote global market constantly. But then again, I don't even know if that's possible because the military-industrial complex and the U.S. global hegemony are the very thing that props up the U.S. dollar having value at all anyway. So if we become more isolationist, that value is going to plummet, which I want us to be more isolationist. And I do think it's a wise idea to use America's current power in an economic standpoint to force industry to grow and bloom again here on our soil instead of outsourcing it all to India and China and shit. So if that can happen, and if we start getting interest and money into our infrastructure to where we can make our own medicines and base and advanced, industrial goods and materials, then we can weather the dropping of the U.S. dollar as we become more isolationist. But that has to come first. Because if you go isolationist too fast in America's current state, where we're reliant on the rest of the world for everything, then you're going to see a lot of things and markets and industries start to collapse and buckle. So I assume if Trump really wants to make things better, this is going to have to be much longer than 1 or 2 terms of a presidency. This is going to require many people in government and the ruling regime, at least many people in the deep state, being on the same page of slowly bringing industry and the infrastructure we need back to America so we can be self-sufficient, if we are also going to become more isolationist and pull back on the global military hegemony, because that will devalue the American dollar for sure.
So there's a lot for me to respond to there. I want to get to both points. The first one was about poor people. The second one is isolationism. So on poor people question, you would tend to be right, yes, that poor people don't generally benefit from any government politics, any policy making. It may be different this time because what would probably help the poor in America the most is for government to just get out of their way. Having a more healthy economy, more well-paying jobs, greater spending power would be helpful for everyone in the US, which includes the poorest. So Trump's economic policies generally should help the poor more than it sounds like you're expecting, I would guess.
No, I'm saying long term it will for sure. For sure it will long term. I'm just saying in the short term, when belts have to be tightened, it's always the poor and the working poor that suffer the most.
Okay,
But I do
possibly,
think we will all benefit long term for sure if this keeps up.
Okay. On the second point of isolationism, yes, the one of the biggest questions we have to deal with Trump coming into power and sort of changing things is that the previous regime, whilst it was horribly corrupt and abusive, had a sort of stability across the world that it maintained. Not a healthy one, not one that was going to last, but the way the world is stable is by this broad network of twisting conspiracies and grifts. Unpicking that is essential, but doing so should be done very carefully and with the awareness that we have to be stable and competitive at every moment as we're doing so. So it's very difficult, very
I mean, a lot
careful
of
work.
officers are committing suicide when they're really going into these things. So, like, there's a lot of pushback still happening. You shouldn't lower your guard.
And I would like to give a little bit of pushback to the first point you said about the thing that would help the poor the most economically being what you said. I think that the thing that would help the poor in America the most is deporting 100 million people who shouldn't be here. That's what hurts us the most because we can't find fucking work.
Yes. That is, of course, worth mentioning, but part of what I was saying about making the economy healthier because more jobs, better for everyone. Yes, absolutely. Well, honestly, that is probably better. Like, I think the poor in the US would benefit more from the deportation of all illegal immigrants than they would from lowering taxes. So, yes. Legal, I would say mixed bag on that one, but yeah, a lot of them need to be deported as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Verdant says, the stability was artificial. Yes, but stability that's fake and stability that are real are still stability. The problem is it wasn't going to last. So it had to be unpicked, but it was still a sort of stability. But yes, not forever. So it has to be unpicked. It has to be, we have to consolidate and simplify our societies down to a more honest, more forthright structure. And that's what Trump appears to be doing. And that's great. But every step of it has to be very careful. So if you want to go more isolationist, you have to understand what that will do and deal with the consequences. I don't think isolationism should be taken to an extreme, but the US should be a bit more isolationist, really a bit more nationally interested than globally interested. And that's where it's going now, I think.
Indeed. It's getting pretty late for me. I'll need to go shortly.
I think I'll wrap up pretty soon. We're 3 hours in. I did say today might be a bit of a shorter stream. We did start a little late. So I think we'll wrap up here. Let me see actually if there's, I believe there is only, no, there's a few more than just one more story. Let me quickly scroll through some of these and see if there's any really fun ones to do. What was this one? Yeah, I'll come back to that one. Online self-reports may not accurately reflect clinical autism diagnoses. What a surprise. Yeah, Japan, China, and South Korea have agreed to jointly respond to US tariffs, which is concerning when those three countries get cooperative. Trump has signed more executive orders than any president in history in his first 67 days, which doesn't sound good on the surface, but given the context, yep, I'm for that. Almost all of them have been good. This is really good news. This is something we should cover before we end. Hegseth ends separate standards for women in combat roles.
Good. Did
you hear that one, Di?
I heard you.
Good. So this would mean that women in combat roles have to fulfill the exact same standards as men in combat roles in the military, which seems obvious and good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm happy that happened. Women on the front line, no. If they manage to get through the male test, sure, they've proven their worth to me. But there'll still be a problem you'll have to deal with.
Yeah, I would say
women in combat roles, just no. Frontline work, no. Not a good idea.
I wouldn't actually be opposed if they said no women on the front line at all, regardless if they meet the standard. I wouldn't oppose that, but this is okay as well. This is at least a significant improvement.
Does to your women is just so demoralizing. Like, they're savages.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be okay with them saying no women on the front line, but this is at least a big improvement. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on Monday announced that the Pentagon would end the practice of setting separate physical fitness standards for women to serve in combat roles. All combat roles are open to men and women, but they must all meet the same high standard. No standards will be lowered, and all combat roles will only have sex-neutral standards. Common sense. Obvious answer. Glad he did it.
That's a good stance to take. That's a good stance to take because that's a good way to say we aren't having women without having to come out and say we aren't having women.
Yeah, very few women will pass the standards. Very few.
And if there are some who can, well, shit, more power to them.
Yeah, again, I'd be okay with either standard on that. Either no women or only the massive meat hunks who technically don't have a penis. Quote, different physical standards for men and women in the US military have existed for a long time, he added, but there were also combat roles that were male only. Then under Obama, all combat roles were opened to men and women, but different physical fitness standards for men and women remained. You see, they did it the other way around. They did it the wrong way around.
That is stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Today at the Department of Defense, we fixed this. The move comes as success work to remove social indoctrination and engineering programs from the military and move towards a merit-based, apolitical armed forces with emphasis on warfighting. Easy wins. Easy wins. This is stuff that should have been done, frankly, much earlier in the administration than this. But you did it at least. Easy wins. So yeah, good to see that's happening. That's all. I think that'll do for the stream chat. I think we'll head down to those of you that are sticking around. We'll head down to Pit 1 after this. Di, I don't suppose you'll be staying up any longer.
Can you move me down?
I can do. Are you already in bed?
No, I'm just playing a game.
Already in bed. I'm going to sleep in a few minutes.
No worries. Well, Di, I think Quattro's here as well. Maybe we could find something to watch after we've had a chat in Pit 1 for a bit after the stream. We still have quite a few animes to get through. Are you still on, are you Smite or Marvel Rivals, Di?
My puzzle game.
Okay. Which puzzle game? Anyone that you recognize?
It's like glass pieces you have to make a picture with.
Glass Masquerade
games to help me pass out
Honey
too.
Lines.
For years now, ever since there's been smartphones, I've been playing little match 3 bright color crystal puzzles. I play those to help my brain go to sleep each night. I've been doing it for like 8 or 9 years.
Hey, you two might be playing the same kind of games. Fun.
Maybe so.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, chat. We will see you. I'll probably be back tomorrow. If you enjoy these streams and you want to see them continue, then your support is essential for them to continue. You can contribute via tip.oozloo.net or funder.oozloo.net, and by doing so, you can participate in server games, such as influencing the topic popularity board, where currently Marcus, 8-Bit, and Quattro are up to potentially become Discord Kitten, each with a rename of their name during their kittenhood, which they would not enjoy. But they are all currently decaying on the board, an opportunity perhaps to get someone else above Marcusi. Bear in mind that Matthias, who's been doing Lent and has taken time off Discord for his Lent for some reason, will probably be back soon. And when he does get back, if you can directly troll the man by contributing to the causes that he wouldn't want, i.e., to get anyone above 8-Bit, who he will be contributing to when he gets back. Yes, those are not actually Chase's legs, as far as we know.
I figured not.
Although
that's hilarious.
Chase has posted pictures of his naked body in Cabal before. Those aren't them. The Harvest makes a good point. Where's this number 25? Chat, I am not directly encouraging this, but I cannot stop you from voting Wes to be Discord Kitten at this delicate time for Cabal Wes relations.
Legs. Oh my God. It's so funny.
Right. Thank you, chat. And I shall end there. I'll see those of you in the community in Pit 1 shortly after the stream, and the rest of you tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, everyone.